Hey, all you dumpster divers. I'm Ed.
And I'm Matt.
And this is
Movie Garbage! Hell
this,
yeah.
Yeah, this is the podcast where we talk about crazy things like a crossover episode that technically is a movie length.
Yeah, like I said last time, it's longer than our previous shortest movie. No pun intended, because we kept getting in trouble for that. Terra Tiny Town.
That's right. So yes, we watched the iParty with Victorious... iCarly Victorious crossover thing. Oh, but hey, as you said, I'm Ed, and joining me as always is Mr. Matthew Lewis.
Of course, hey. I was going to do a bit where I jumped off the rafters like Gibby and broke my ribs, but that last minute not to.
Good choice. Good choice.
Yeah. So yeah, we have a ton to talk about. Maybe not too much about the actual plot of this episode, because this pretty much was an episode of a thing. But
yeah. It definitely felt like it.
Oh yeah. But I was gonna say we both talked about in the previous episode, the Monster Hunter one, that a huge influence for the reason I picked this is because of Quinton Reviews. I want to shout out his YouTube channel. We're going to do our best not to just, quote his stuff the entire time, but it's going to be difficult because it's incredibly informative, and those things are like documentary quality.
Not just informative, but like in-depth and like
immensely hilarious.
And it's not even just like the base source. It is a lot of deep dive on things. And yeah, I did actually spend... So if somehow he hears this and is curious what people do and doesn't already know, I was at work while I listened to it all. So I'm working on dialysis machines, listening to Quinton Reviews talk about iCarly, Victorious, and Sam and Cat. And of course his pinboard segments breaking down characters, ships, and Goomer.
Yeah, Goomer being the GOAT of the whole series.
That's what I definitely gathered. Though I will say, and whether this is intentional on his point or not, but watching because I watched all of his stuff. I skipped out. I literally took and did not watch the iParty with Victorious. So I watched this
completely fresh.
I don't think I've ever seen it. And there were parts of this from characters who I knew, if I could remember their names, but the way he would describe the characters, at times there were things you could definitely tell he could not address. So I guess first of all, again, to Quinton there, challenge, thrown out to you. You didn't fully 100% give me the watching experience. Oh, yeah. So I think you need to make a 13-hour video now per episode to get that. But no, I just thought it was nice that I knew these characters and I knew a lot of the history on them and the breakdown to where they came from, where they went, and some of the behind-the-scenes stuff. Yeah. But I still was able to watch this... I was going to call it an episode.
Yeah,
that's what it was.
It literally was pretty much an episode, but it was technically like 4 episodes put together almost.
Yeah.
Top of the podcast. So before anything specific, 2 shout outs. One, positive. One kind of like a upsetting thing. Which would you want to go over first? It's like a mild, like, oh, it's interesting thing, and then like a serious kind of ish thing.
Let's start with the serious, get that out of the way so we can go back to having good fun.
All right.
Because I'm pretty sure I know what the negative here is.
Well, I'm curious. No, it's not, because we're not talking about the producer until the end of the series, but I wanted to shout out a Nickelodeon All-Star that just recently passed, as per this recording, Michelle Trachtenberg.
She was on all that.
She was Harriet the Spy.
That's right, yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
she was also on Space Cases and Clarissa Explains It All. She was a frequent on Pete and Pete. As of this recording, she passed away maybe about a couple weeks, maybe a month or so ago.
I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, she passed away.
47, if I recall?
Yeah, she was like our age. She was like really close to our age.
Really that?
Yeah, she was very close to our age.
I remember she was young, but I don't know why that's
she just recently, she passed like a couple weeks ago as of this recording. This episode's going to air months later, but yeah, she was. I was a huge fan of hers. I saw Harriet the Spy in theaters when it happened. It was Pete and Pete. I remember her on Space Cases, even though she's like that show no one ever remembers. But yeah, and then Kenan Thompson, who's going to be relevant to this episode, also tweeted out that she was like a literal OG Nickelodeon All-Star who like there's like the first one of them that's like passed away so young, and it was like a horrible thing. So yeah, that's a very serious thing.
Definitely rough.
Yeah. Yeah, the first major one of those people that we knew growing up that we passed away within our generation.
I don't remember really watching Pete and Pete. Like I knew Danny Tamborelli from all that and everything, and I know Calista Explained It All. I was like just too young for that one, but like I do remember her and Harriet the Spy and some of those early stuff. So yeah, that is definitely a.
Figure It Out. Yeah.
She was on Figure It Out.
She was one of the panelists.
She was a panelist on Figure It Out.
Yeah.
How do I not remember? Why don't I?
Also, minor, just like little side fun fact thing. I know that she was cousins with two people. One of them great, one of them absolutely terrible. Mara Wilson. What was her name? She was the little psychic girl from the book series.
I'm thinking. What's her name? Carrie?
No, with Danny. Danny DeVito played her dad. He also directed that.
Oh,
movie.
Matilda.
Matilda, yeah. He directed. Mara Wilson is her cousin. That's the good one.
Okay.
The bad one is that they're also cousins with Ben Shapiro.
Oh.
So yeah, Mara Wilson is super outspoken, incredibly liberal.
She's like Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, wasn't she?
Maybe I don't think so, but she was.
No, that was that's the daughter of the Giants owner, if I recall.
Possibly.
I thought the Mara Wilson name sounds like
she's an actress who you recognize from a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, I do remember that though.
And then their other cousin is Dan Shapiro or Ben Shapiro, which sucks. But
he's awful and terrible.
But yeah, that's the serious topic I wanted to get to. Because Michelle Trachtenberg, huge, wonderful actress, very tragedy as she passed away recently.
Yeah.
The positive news was that we are recording this literally a couple days past the 15-year anniversary of Victorious.
The 15th anniversary.
15 years ago, Victorious aired. It was
really?
March
15?
27th. Inside Baseball, we're recording this on March 30th. But yeah, so we missed that 15-year anniversary by a couple. And then our personal anniversary, we missed by our 5-year anniversary for this podcast.
We
missed by about a month, yeah.
So, yeah, that's pretty quick. I know what's crazier. The fact that technically it's been 5 years and we only have our 19 episodes.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, 19 total recordings, but then you got the multiple part Monster Hunter.
Yeah, Monster Hunter is going to be airing for a bit.
I mean, I feel like we always have to make sure, too, that no matter what, our Monster Hunter episode will never get surpassed until we eventually release the live watch and reaction with all of our friend group of Freddy Got Fingered.
Someday, yeah, soon.
I feel like that's going to be our 50th anniversary.
50
our 50th episode
50 episode
goal is we're going to get all of our friends together.
Uh-huh.
We're going to turn on the recording. Well, if we have to get multiple microphones, we will. And we will watch Freddy Got Fingered. And hell, you know what? We might do this live. We'll do a live stream on one of our multiple Twitches. Yeah. And we will watch Freddy Got Fingered and give live commentary during it and discuss things as they happen. If we have to, we can go scene by scene. Because I definitely feel like each scene could be like its own 3-hour episode.
Of course, it deserves it.
Absolutely.
And then at the end, of course, we can add an additional thing like the amazing podcast, You Talking You Two to Me, where Scott Aukerman and Adam Scott did an episode where they listened to their first episode, and you could hear it playing under the entire. It was insane.
You know what I think we also could do for our 50th is if we can't get Tom Green officially on, see if he's on Cameo, and just have him record a bunch of random lines that we could just put in as reactions.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we'd have him on the episode reacting to us, going "Oh, I can't believe you figured that one out," or "You were way off the mark." Or Gordy. All this kind of random stuff.
Of course. The other thing we wanted to do, so there's two major halves of things to discuss during this. We have, as Quinton put it, the Nickelodeon Sitcom Universe. But we also have a number of shows outside of that universe, live action Nickelodeon stuff we can discuss. Those are going to be two lengthy paths we can start on. Which you want to go first?
You're saying the sitcom universe, which he breaks down, and what's the live action?
The other one would be other live action shows on Nickelodeon at the time that we watched or didn't watch.
Let's start with the ones that outside of it, so we can slowly work our way towards iCarly and Victorious.
Of course, yeah.
Since I feel there is even though there's connective tissues, there is a break around a lot of the Nickelodeon, that sitcom universe and Nickelodeon as a whole.
Of course.
So we'll work our way inwards.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so for other shows that I did not watch, I have a little bit of a time scale here for things. We have Hey Dude. Did you watch that?
No,
it was a bunch of kids on a day, a ranch, a dusty old setting. It was from 89, which is when I was born, to 91.
That was 1 year old when that came out.
Yeah, it was way before both of our time. But I remember seeing reruns of it, the kid named Donkey Lips and the fucking weird. It was some funny ass show.
Donkey Lips.
Yeah, that's the one kid I remember, and I was 2 or 3 years old when I watched that. And then Pete and Pete, which was 93 to 96.
I did not watch that one.
I did watch a couple of episodes of that. My mom saw like the Arnie, the strongest man in the world, the guy like who was like a superhero outfit. He's like a weird guy who ran around their town. She like saw him and she's like, I'm not watching this show anymore. And she told me not to watch it because he looked like a weird guy in like tights running around saying he was the strongest man in the world. She's like, you're not watching this. Turn this off.
I mean, that
he was a weirdo.
That sounds weird.
The other ones, Clarissa Explains It All. Marissa Joan Hart, huge actress in her time. 91 to 94.
And maybe it was just on reruns. Like, that was a show I feel like I don't remember watching, but I remember seeing things about it.
Yeah.
And I know it was similar to that, you know, like As Told by Ginger and what was that Disney, the Hilary Duff one?
Hilary Duff. What was it called? Hilary Duff? Lizzie McGuire. It
was similar to Lizzie McGuire, wasn't it? Where it was like the main character was talking about their life in that kind of scenario.
Yeah, what was situation? That other show? The one with the whole group of kids like in the school with the Screech and them from
Saved by the Bell.
Saved by the Bell. To give it like Clarissa would like talk to the screen, like pause and like talk about what's happening. Like, oh, this is Ferguson. He's an annoying friend or whatever. Or like,
yeah, I remember it through osmosis, but I can't say I remember watching it because I remember her from Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
Yeah, that's mainly where I know her from too. Next would be Are You Afraid of the Dark? Excellent show.
That's another show that I feel like I don't remember watching, but I feel like I can recall it.
Yeah,
and it might be because it's been talked about.
Of course, it was 91 to 2000. There was like a gap between there where they revived it.
And I mean, also too, because that and Goosebumps are so similar show-wise, because they both have the kid horror element, and they're also very episodic.
Of course.
So there are probably Are You Afraid of the Dark things that I took in and thought were Goosebumps, because I was a Goosebumps kid.
I would say Goosebumps, like the actual show wise, I would say Are You Afraid of the Dark was a little bit more serious and a little bit actually more like scary for the most part, as opposed to Goosebumps, which was very silly for the most part.
I think that part of the Goosebumps show being rough or like goofy was more so, I think, the budgeting comparatively.
Because I mean, very silly.
Like I looked it up about R.L. Stine, and we can connect stuff all over the place here with this. I remember like reading about it, and he was like, I wanted to make a horror thing, but that kids could actually take in and enjoy. So he was making things that were meant to be terrifying and scary, and especially we recall it, and it may not be as terrifying some of the when he didn't land. But I mean, there were things that I'm sure, like if you give it to kids, those things would definitely throw off as terrifying, the same way Afraid of the Dark was trying to be. And there were some moments too in the show, like I think because it was a book turned into a show, there are some things that are a lot harder to get out. And I think we also have to remember too that no matter how good or bad things were going to be, they all were made with those commercial breaks in mind. Yeah. So how many times do you remember? Which ironically worked with the chapters, but the amount of times you ended on a commercial cliffhanger. Just to come back and, what a fake out. It's just his goofy friend with a silly voice.
Yeah, I was listening to a bunch of different Goosebumps podcasts, and like literally every chapter break, it'll be like a huge setup. Like, and then I was suddenly grabbed and yanked from behind. And the next will be like, and it was my little brother. Like every single chapter would be a dumb fake out every single time. They got annoyed. It was like a podcast where they're reading all the books, and they got really annoyed by it because it would happen every single time. And then suddenly a giant monster. It was my dog. Next chapter.
I do remember that.
Yeah, every single time. It was very
funny. I think it was like we enjoyed Goosebumps not so much for the traditional scariness, but it was an introduction to horror that we're not going to get any other way.
Of course,
especially as a kid. And there were some. I mean, Slappy the Dummy, I think, is truly iconic.
I think the Slappy covers are like the best rendition of that character ever. Like the show one looked goofy, and then the movie one didn't look as scary. But the original Slappy book cover is like the scariest thing. It was like a big giant, like weird, black blue eyes. Nice. We're a couple of beers in.
Also, I always remember, and the image was, I feel like, pretty big with Goosebumps. But the it's like, what was it? Smile You're Dead or Flash and You Die.
The camera one.
The camera one.
That's like with the skeleton family.
Yes, those skeletons were big because I had a lot of Goosebumps stuff as a kid. I actually still have downstairs. It's a little stand that has the like kind of creepier hand. It's got a clock on it, and you could supposed to put stuff in it. But I also had a Slappy the Dummy pillow, like a head pillow, and I think I had one of that skeleton too.
I tweeted at one of those Goosebumps podcasts. I think one of the official ones possibly, and I said like I had a copy of Monster Blood 4, the one with the hamster on the cover, I had that, like, I literally took it to school every single day back in, like, 4th or 5th grade, and until, like, the cover was falling off of it. I took that book everywhere.
That was a good one. The late stuff was, I remember, too, like, there's a good one. Like, there was own, big, like, Jelly Blob, revision or whatever. There's a lot of good Goosebumps.
Yeah.
And
I
like the charm of it because it tried.
Oh, yeah.
And it didn't, like, it was held back by budget, but not by imagination. And I think that was...
True. But you did watch Are You Afraid of the Dark, which I think is a much better show.
Listen, I couldn't tell you if I watched it or not.
If you can get a chance, you have Paramount Plus. If they do have, I don't know if they have Are You Afraid of the Dark. If they do, definitely give it out because some of those are still legit freaky today.
Well, I'll give you a spoiler. My movie choice is going to have a lot of potential extra additions, but we'll get to that at the end of the episode. So there's a little teaser. The movie's going to have lots of things. And I was going to go past it, and it's just you only have to watch the one though. There's my Goosebumps transition.
I'm sure I'll do extra. Another show, Cousin Skeeter. Do you remember that show?
I cannot say I remember that show.
You do remember if you saw Cousin Skeeter himself? If you remember the show?
I definitely have never watched it. Because I hear Skeeter and I think of Doug.
Nice. He was a black puppet.
Wait, what?
He was a black puppet kid. He was like supposed to be like a normal person in that world, but he was a puppet.
What?
You remember Cousin Skeeter?
And
Leanne over here, not to shout her out, does definitely remembers Cousin Skeeter.
I did not watch that. That was before I...
It was 98 to 2001. I was going to say...
He never even watched MTV. So
I know. Cousin Skeeter was the best. He was the coolest kid on the planet.
How did I not watch that?
He was so funny.
See, I remember... Because we didn't have Nickelodeon for a while. Because I watched... Like, I remember watching Rugrats on my friend, who was my neighbor and was my friend for a while. Like my parents didn't let me watch it for a bit. We didn't have it, and I watched it at his house until finally Nickelodeon got onto the cable,
proper normal cable.
Yeah, so like some of those early shows like that, like unless it was like a big thing like that, like Rugrats, I did not get a chance to watch it. Yeah. So
I would say I didn't really have a segment for cartoons from Nick. But of course, all of them are pretty iconic for a reason. Rugrats, amazing. Wild Thornberry's fantastic.
Oh yeah.
I mean, just look through the Quinton's Nicktoons review is like just full of great stuff.
I know, just like looking at searching on Nickelodeon shows here. I mean, part of it is it's weird actually though. Like, we know Nickelodeon as like cartoons, but like the very first one was Doug in '91, and Rugrats and Ren and Stimpy. Rocko's Modern Life in '93. Yep. But like some of the big ones like that people definitely Wild Thornberries is '98. Oh god. So we were older. Invader Zim was 2011.
The best.
Or
2011. What the hell?
2001. Sorry. But like
we were definitely
to me though, like the end of the OG era, which I say is of course without getting too deep into him, would be Danny Phantom. That was 2004's premiere.
I would say 2004. I was never a fan of Danny Phantom.
And that one ended in 2007.
I caught a couple episodes when it was on, but I was never like seeking it out.
Basically, by the time we graduated high school is when the original kind of more animated, 2D animation style ended because
that's when they got all of these damn live action shows. Everybody.
Well, so like ironically, there are some still like Cat Scratch, El Tigre.
Cat Scratch was fun. I like Cat Scratch.
I vaguely remember that, but. Kind of in between the OG 2Ds and then the shift into the 3Ds was Avatar: The Last Airbender, which is technically, surprisingly, a Nickelodeon.
It was Nickelodeon first.
So, but like after that, I still see again the Mighty Bee and some of these, but like Tack, Back at the Barnyard.
Mighty Bee was fantastic.
Penguins of Madagascar.
That was an Amy Poehler show.
Planet Sheen.
Mighty Bee, Amy Poehler show was fantastic.
Monsters vs. Aliens got his own show.
I'm not surprised about that.
I am.
I was gonna say, in terms of live action, do you remember Snick?
Yes.
Saturday Night Nick? Yeah, that was between.
And that's the thing. I think
Snickly.
Yeah.
That's probably why.
Oh no, Stickly was like the morning. Yeah, Snick was
that was the one I watched. Stickly. But I
Snick
do
was
remember,
it was like the teen our Saturday Night Nick.
I never really
92 to 2005.
That's probably where I watched a lot of some of these shows. Yeah. The live action stuff was that didn't interest me the same way, but occasionally. You'd have it on and it'd be late and there's nothing else on. So I'm just, cause for those, I'm assuming, actually, I don't know how people listening in, if they would have, how much they remember you don't have streaming. You watch what's on TV,
Yeah,
what you have in your, your physical media cabinet. or nothing at all. That's right.
Happy Days on Nick at Night.
Nick at Night, all those
That's
all
right,
those old
Nick at
80s.
Night.
They had a bunch of old 80s and 70s shows that I like legit in my head growing up. I always thought that that what's it called? Happy Days was taking place actually in the 50s or whatever. I was like, this is recorded in the 50s. It was actually like the 70s or 80s. I was like, oh shit.
So, though I do have a quick shout out for it's listed on the animated shows, but I don't know if you can really call it that. Kablam.
Kablam fucking rules.
So I wanted to watch. Ironically, I was trying to have my son watch something with me, and I saw that on there. Like, oh, Kablam! I love that because my dad. I remember actually now.
Hell yeah! I was just thinking.
And the flesh, he's super strong and super naked. And my dad thought it was hysterical
Stinky
too.
diver.
Melt man with the power to melt. And of course, don't forget about Thunder Girl flying like thunder. Ain't it a wonder how amazing she is?
I was thinking, what was the Bleorp and Bob? What was the alien in the
Oh, Phineas and Bob.
Was it Phineas?
It was for Phineas. It was like Phineas and Bob.
Yeah, the
like
alien
stop
and
motion
the caveman. Yeah, God, that was fantastic.
There's a lot of weird stuff on that one.
Amazing stuff.
So I was trying to watch it with my son. He was on into it. My daughter liked it, and she has been watching that for a month now. Like every night, she wants to watch Kablam.
Kablam's fucking awesome.
Loves Sniz, and her favorite was Sniz and Fondue. She has said.
What is the paper craft one with the girl with the pigtails?
Anaconda.
No,
not Angela Anaconda. No,
it starts with a P.
Penelope,
I think it was.
Ariana.
So,
but yeah, that show, that artist who does that show, I think is still doing stuff now with that like character. I think possibly even. But
really,
yeah, like I saw like just like still doing stuff with that same character and the same like paper artwork, and I was like, that's pretty fantastic.
You know, well, there's some live action stuff too because like the first episode, I've seen it enough to know. The first episode has like a robot, and it's like a little puppet, like a little like marionette puppet, kind of they was made up for it. And I've seen a few where they have like plush puppetry things.
Yeah.
It's, it's crazy too. Like that had the live action Action League. It had Sniz and Fondue, which is traditional. You had that blend with the Penelope or Poppy or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Whatever. And there's Phineas and Bob was was stop motion.
Yeah. There was a whole bunch of different animation styles that really, broadened our horizons when we were kids. All this stuff aired around. I was saying, you were talking about our like golden era of Nickelodeon. Literally, Teen Nick, the series or whatever, that branch of that section of time, literally aired between 2011 and 2009. So like literally when me and you were both teenagers.
Wait. 2011 to
2002. Yeah, 2001 to 2009.
You did the same thing I did.
Yeah, I see the one. I'm like, well, that's obviously 2011, right?
Loopy, My Life with Loopy. That's what it was.
Loopy. Okay, yeah.
It was My Life with Loopy.
I believe that. Yeah, I believe that artist is still doing stuff to this day with that character.
Okay,
possibly. But yeah, 2001 to 2009, literally in the window when we were both teenagers.
Yeah,
was when Teen Nick was airing and all these shows were on there.
Eventually, they moved that stuff to the more like traditional. Like they had the cartoons and the live action stuff blended because that's when I had started getting into getting into the live action stuff.
Mm-hmm. And not to hit the sitcom universe yet, but like of course we'll get into when we both fell out of it. I know the specific year when I fell out with series I fell out with, but I did pick up the N. Did you get the N? Mm-hmm. Hell yeah, Leanne knows the N.
Noggin.
Yeah, it was the
again. It's another thing that sounds like
more mature Nickelodeon spin-off channel. It was on satellite, I know.
I cannot.
Yeah, I was gonna say literally.
I'm gonna say I don't
the shows
think I
had Degrassi, Next Generation. When we watched was 2001 to 2015.
I don't think if we got it, I don't think I watched it.
Okay, and then the reason I stopped watching shows on Nickelodeon regulars because shows like Degrassi and the other show I want to talk about, South of Nowhere, was on. Yeah. I was on Leon's.
You can start your own TV show podcast.
South of Nowhere probably to this day, 2005, still probably one of the best LGBT shows.
Wait, today, 2005?
2005.
I think of season 1 all the time.
I know.
Because it was my awakening to lesbian relationships.
It was a fantastic show.
I didn't even know that they were a thing.
Yeah, it was mind-blowing back in 2005. It was like, what the hell? On a Nickelodeon spin-off channel, it was probably, like, so to this day, it's probably one of the best representations of LGBT stuff. It was like that early.
Huh.
I was just recently in a thread about Victorious and stuff on Reddit where someone said that they had the entire DVD set of South of Nowhere. and I'm just trying to like help them convert it to YouTube so they can actually, because that show's not streaming anywhere. It's not available on YouTube. It's not anywhere, and they have like the whole DVD box set. And I was trying to like convince them to upload it. I was like, I'm certain Viacom forgot it existed. If you can upload that entire DVD set to YouTube or something, so people can actually access to this great show that's not available anywhere. Talk about freaking dead media stuff.
we could go into a very long conversation about dead media.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because
that's why I
Viacom,
made sure that I got a disc PS5 and not the digital only, because like yes, I buy plenty of games digitally, Switch included, but being able to buy things physically is something that I think needs to be held up a hell of a lot more. Because,
than it actually is.
Yeah.
Another show on the N, which I think was on Snick originally. I don't know if you know this one, Leanne. Caitlin's Way.
I don't know that one.
Sounds familiar.
Definitely
It was about a
that.
girl. It was she was an edgy the year 2002. She like had a nose ring and dyed hair, and she was really like, but she was basically, her family was divorced, and she was forced to go with her dad on like a horse ranch, and she was very moody, very like early proto goth emo.
I don't think I ever watched.
Oh yeah, it was on Nickelodeon originally, and then that show was one of the first things to spin off onto the N. There's a ton of other shows on the N that I've never even heard of, but Degrassi and South of Nowhere were the two things that I watched religiously.
I used to watch South of Nowhere in secret.
You should watch.
I didn't want my family to know.
Yikes.
Yeah, but yeah, the Nickelodeon live action series, that the non cinematic universe shows. Also, yeah, I was gonna say Unfabulous. I never watched a single episode of, and Ned's Declassified. I caught a couple of random episodes.
That one I watched. I did enjoy that.
2004 to 2007.
We're gonna take that other podcast.
I was gonna say, yeah, there's some drama currently with the pod. It's back now, apparently. They're reconciled or something. But
I thought they actually broke up from. Like I thought
they did. Yeah, the show was like shut down after like all the crazy internet drama or whatever was going on between them. But now, recently, I think about a couple weeks ago, they've reunited and doing the podcast again.
You know, I remember hearing.
I remember seeing the show in passing, but never bothering to check it out. 2014. I was 14 years old. I was too cool for that.
I'm gonna have to.
I was not.
I'm going to take out them because at this point, we're in current year. There's a lot of people we're learning are not great. But I remember watching that show and I enjoyed it because it. I don't know. I don't even remember how old I was at the time.
You would have been my age. You would have been 13 to.
I would have been your age. Yeah,
13.
Always.
Probably
13
close.
to 16.
So like, but yeah, it was one of those shows. That was. If I'm not mistaken, the janitor's name was Gordon, Gordy, wasn't it?
For what?
Something like that, yeah.
The janitor's name in Ned's Declassified?
I never watched it. I passingly.
It was Gordy?
I never watched Gord.
Oh!
Gordy.
So now you gotta watch the show because Gordy.
Now I gotta check it out.
But I mean, I remember it was fun enough, and it was.
I was gonna say I actively have been avoiding any of the podcast stuff going on. I have no idea at all. Literally, legit, I do not know what's going on. I know some kind of crazy stuff was happening.
But
they broke
honestly,
up and they got back together. But
see,
I don't know a
about
single thing
that.
about it.
I remember hearing that. I don't remember their names, and I was like, I'll throw names out.
Probably.
Well, I heard that the actress who played Mose has a lot of not so great takes, but apparently there were times where she was just like straight up talking about how she was probably doing things, and because they would, especially because of the I'm sure we'll mention on the was it Live on Set?
Quiet on Set.
Quiet on Set. The Quiet on Set.
We should have made a blanket statement about child actors. It's not good.
I know they were a little older, but still there was
life, yeah.
they talked about there's nothing bad happening on our show, and she's telling stories about some really
not great stuff.
not great stuff for teenagers to be doing.
Yeah.
So but that aside, I do remember watching Ned's Declassified Survival Guide, and I thought it was a fun concept too. That was one of the big ones I got into.
Okay.
Outside of the main stuff.
Yeah, the main stuff. Okay, so yeah, at the end of before we get into
the
sitcom universe,
I was looking, by the way, at some of the shows they had for the live action that weren't classified as drama.
Yeah.
So some of these here, Skeeter, Brothers Garcia in 2000.
Yeah,
I was surprised that we start hitting that universe at 2004 with Drake and Josh.
I was technically started in '94 with all that. If you want to get into
that, I'm trying to see where that's variety programming. I'm assuming
yeah.
They had a lot of variety programming in the 80s
but technically,
and 90s.
It starts there because Good Burger, which is canon to the rest of the universe, did start in
Why can I not even see
probably
that
year
one there?
one of all that. So that'd be '94.
Programming from Noggin. There's that
Yeah.
miniseries.
Also, my list was only shows that I actually watched, or I know there's like the Brothers Garcia I never saw.
What's all that under? Yeah, that was 94.
Yeah.
So that's under the
Before
variety programs.
Yeah,
okay.
before we get into the sitcom universe, there's one other thing I wanted to talk about. Did you want to get into the competition?
The competition.
The competition meaning the Disney Channel stuff, airing similar time-wise.
See,
Or did you want to get into the sitcom universe yet?
I can't. I don't remember
I didn't
hard
watch
watching. I remember occasionally seeing Disney stuff.
I never saw it because like
But there were not many things.
by the
that I
time
could
they were
go-
doing live action stuff, I was so not interested in their stuff. I'd never watched it.
It was
either.
just. I mean, a lot of their stuff. Like I remember like Sweet Life of Zach and Cody.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. But like, I don't have like and I don't know what it is, but I don't have the same fond memories on it. But I think part of it too was like I know they're obviously connected and stuff like that. But when you're talking about like Nick, even, and maybe again it was because of all that popularity. But I remember not just all that, but I loved Legends of the Hidden Temple and Double Dare.
Oh yeah, the
Figure It
action
Out.
shows, oh, yeah.
So like the game shows were just as big for me as the live action shows I started watching.
Absolutely, especially when
'Cause-
they had all the actors on as like guests and stuff. Was really
Yeah.
good, too.
Well, I mean, like Legends of the Hidden Temple was legitimately one of my favorite shows, and
Which
to
one
the
with
point-
Olmec? Was that Legends?
that was Olmec.
Yeah.
And also, and maybe I mean, we're doing this now, so maybe we should have done this instead. They made a movie. I genuinely enjoyed that film.
Legends of the Hidden Temple.
Though to be fair,
What year was
the
it?
other Disney movie, the other Nickelodeon show that got a updated live action movie in the 2020s that I genuinely find entertaining despite it being insane was they made a Dora the Explorer
I heard
movie.
about it. I've in passing seen stuff from it. I've never watched the movie, but I heard it got like good reviews, but it is insane. And I was
It
like,
is
that sounds
insane,
interesting.
and I genuinely enjoy that film. Like that is, like I guess in theory that if we're going back to somehow an old segment, like that is a whatever the
Cream of the crop.
cream of the crop. That'd be a cream of the crop, like live old property revived into a movie.
Yeah,
just
Well,
tangentially
it was
connecting
like,
to it.
the Scooby Doo stuff that James Gunn did, where it's like the goofy cartoon people are in like an otherwise realistic world. I believe. Like I said,
That was the ones with Matthew Lillard.
Yeah.
That was James Gunn.
Yeah, both of them.
Oh snap!
That's why they're so
That
funny.
explains a lot.
That's why they're so goddamn good.
That explains
and
a lot.
all the very subtle weed jokes that they implemented into that series is very funny.
His girlfriend Mary Jane.
I love Mary Jane. Yeah.
Oh boy.
But yeah, like I said, I was very picky and choosy about Nick's stuff. I never watched any of the competition. The crossover things, like we're doing the crossover movie iParty with the Victorious, the That's So Sweet Life of Hannah Montana, which was the That's So Raven, Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, and Hannah Montana crossover event.
I heard about that vaguely. I know
was
about
gonna say,
its existence.
Yeah, we've been shouting out Quinton Reviews the whole time, but I wanted to shout out also Kian Carlisle, who is on the Nickelodeon Unite video that he did. That dude has like equally as long videos about the Disney shows, which you should definitely try checking out. Kian Carlisle, he's on the thing about the thing I heard an interesting thing about the boxes on that box level. The teddy bear,
Yeah. Okay, that was him.
That was him in that. Yeah, he has like equally long videos about Corey in the House, Sweet Life series.
It'll take me a while to get into that because I'm still going through Quentin stuff.
Oh yeah. And when you get a chance, go through his stuff. It's fantastic. His Wizards of Waverly Place got me like, okay, that's like pretty interesting how he covered that and how they handled it. But like speaking of those, the other That's So Sweet Life of Hannah Montana. That 3-series crossover was in 2006. And then there was another one, Wizards on Deck with Hannah Montana, which was
Heard about that one.
Wizards of Waverly Place, Sweet Life on Deck, and then Hannah Montana crossover in 2009.
Some of those I don't remember. I vaguely remember. Honestly, like the vast majority of things that I saw.
Oh yeah, no, but like I said,
Disney.
I never watched them personally. I've only known them through like his series and like cultural osmosis during the time. I never sought it out.
There's one show from Disney that I remember. It was a 2D animation show. And maybe I'm the only one who's ever going to hear this, except for maybe my sister, which, to be honest, she doesn't listen to my podcast. But there was a show I remember finding hysterical, and I feel like it showed up, was on for a while, and then vanished. was Dave the Barbarian.
Dave the Barbarian fucking rules.
That was his. I
I've heard
loved that
something
show.
in recent years about it. Also, the dude who voices Dave was one of the characters from Hey Dude. He was an actor on Hey Dude.
Oh snap!
Yeah.
That was a show that I remember finding hysterical.
It was so weird.
But like the end.
Yeah,
Was,
I remember the bit. Like, oh, Dave, you're such a coward and a whip. Why'd you become a barbarian? Like, I thought it was a combination barber and librarian.
Oh yeah.
God.
Yeah. That was such a good show.
It was funny. Very, very,
Very funny. Like I felt like I just always connected more with the animated shows
Of course.
for the longest time. When I hit that when I transitioned, I transitioned. Like
Yeah.
like looking at these lists, you know, like I said
There's so much stuff on there that I've never even heard of or never even thought
yes.
about. Yeah.
I mean, so like animated wise, my parents did not want me to watch Ren and Stimpy.
Yeah.
Rocko's Modern Life and Our Real Monsters. I also didn't hit about the Hey Arnold's when I really started watching stuff.
I don't know rules. They just did a recent rewatch of it, like I think a couple years ago. It still holds up to be
Hey Arnold?
absolutely fantastic. Yeah,
I remember,
not surprising.
Kablam, obviously. I really enjoyed the Angry Beavers, and that's because
That show fucking rules too.
yeah, I mean that opening theme song was legit.
I still think about the crawling spleen to this day, or the.
That was my
Dog
next
Food.
one. Was Cat Dog. Ironically, my parents have like a little like hybrid like truck minivan thing.
Yeah.
They call it Cat Dog. Of course, the infamous Oh Yeah cartoons,
Oh
which
Yeah,
was where we got
cartoons.
Fairly Odd Parents.
Yep.
Wild Thornberries, Tim Curry. You know, think about it too. Like
Tim Curry's on a ton of animated shows. If you look up like '90s kid stuff and adult animated stuff, Tim Curry is like in a lot of it. He was in a shit ton of voice acting.
yeah, and it's crazy. Rocket Power.
Hell yeah.
Which was always a fun that was another show that I feel like was ahead of its time in ways. Like, I mean, you could obviously, I'm sure there's someone who's broken down the potential connective tissue between the Powers father and what's his name? But the guy he worked with,
Tito?
Tito, yeah.
Yeah, Tito was. Oh no, I'm thinking of a different.
Like I know that they obviously weren't, but I guarantee you that there was some code in that.
I'm sure there was plenty of fanfics there at the time written by somebody.
But like, it was always nice to like. Obviously, Otto was the main character, but never felt like it.
No,
and
it's
like,
good rule.
and like, I mean, you had everyone between Otto and Twister being the traditional jocks. They did get called out, and like Reggie and Sam Squid, like they were just as equal important characters, and it was nice to see like high representation, and all that.
I'm still self-conscious about not being a shoebie whenever I go to like the beach or anything.
So
Never want to be seen as a shoebie.
So yeah, that was a great show. Obviously, Fairly Odd Parents is what it is.
Of course.
Invader Zim,
The best.
I'm ironically too. My first Ohio Con was voice actor of Gurr was there.
Oh,
so I think I still got somewhere a picture of him.
He's fucking
And my ironically my text tone for my one coworker is Gurr. So another one I've forgotten about Chalk Zone.
I did a rewatch of they did another series of Chalk Zone, I heard.
Really?
Or a movie or something.
That's ran according to this 6 years.
Yeah,
which
but I heard
is surprising.
There should be a new series for that, but yeah.
Which Jimmy Neutron only got 4 years.
Which is weird because it's so prevalent in stuff like the Nicktoon Universe stuff.
Yeah.
Have you played the new Nicktoons Battle All Stars game, the Smash clone?
Nope.
Get it? You should get it on. It was available on PSN a little bit ago, but if you get a chance, it's a pretty decent Smash clone. I would say. And Quinton would love it because it's very plot based.
Yeah, the Chalk Zone, but Jimmy Neutron, all grown up obviously. And then I said I really enjoyed Danny Phantom, and I also really liked My Life as a Teenage Robot.
My Life as a Teenage Robot's really fucking kicked ass. That show was fantastic.
Yeah,
that is great.
And I said I liked Danny Phantom. I thought it was a fun concept. I enjoyed it, and I'm the Box Ghost.
Box Ghost. Besides all the controversy around that show,
I mean, I'm taking these.
I know, but I was like, besides even Butch Hartman, there's the Ember. I think that honestly, yeah.
Oh, that's right. I do remember hearing about Ember.
Besides that bad stuff,
but that was more so
next.
That was adjacent to. I don't think that is properly.
But that character Ember was like one of the first characters I looked up like DeviantArt art for back in the day. Like, oh my god, this character! I love her design. I love her character. Let me go look up a bunch of fan art of the. That's the first time I looked at like fan art of the character because like I really love her design so much. And Tara Strong, of course, the GOAT in every single fucking show ever existing until this day. Wonderful, wonderful.
I mean, it was definitely
animated Nick is fantastic.
And I think too, like that show, like again, controversies aside, I think that what I enjoyed about it was like, even though like there was it didn't feel different than Fairly Odd Parents art style wise, which I give credit to. And I also say like the designs of each ghost, like Skulker, Ember, even the warden who we saw the one time.
Yeah, the genie woman, I forgot her name.
Yes,
Jasmine,
her.
I want to say, or something.
That
like
sounds
that.
about right.
Probably.
That's probably close to what it was. I'm sure.
Probably.
Like there were so many of those great. What's his name? The tech ghost, who I'm pretty sure was Gilbert Gottfried.
It was, or the guy who's doing a good impersonation of him.
He did damn fine then.
Oh yeah.
But like there was so many great visual ghosts, and they all, and the box ghost, the lunch lady, and they all had the great distinct visual appearances, and I enjoyed that. And that was, again, once Avatar hit, I think that's where things changed.
Of course, it was just too good for its own good.
It really was. I mean,
When the Avatar arrived.
I think it's so good to the point where we don't even associate it with Nickelodeon because it doesn't feel like something. I mean, even
whenever I think about that, whenever I think about Nickelodeon and Avatar, I just think about how screwed over Korra at the end of the last season or two.
I remember that.
The insanely terrible airing order they did.
And like didn't we have to go to like Yahoo for like the last like half?
It was like they were airing the episodes online exclusively at one point.
It was bad. It was so bad. Didn't they almost damn near not even get like a third season?
I don't remember. No, the season approval stuff was very confusing. I've heard many different stories about how that worked. Like people saying like they didn't know they're gonna every season they didn't know they're gonna get another one, and then I heard that was not true. So you hear various stuff all over the place.
So I do remember when the original was airing. Like I remember the gap between the Day of Black Sun that was like the mid-season final season finale. And then you cut to and I remember the huge gaps. And then of course this is before a lot of more physical media. Yeah. So like to watch the 4-episode finale that was 2 hours.
Yeah.
Like you had to literally catch all those episodes.
Oh yeah.
That was rough. But we did it. We definitely did it.
I was there online back in the day trying to catch Korra when it was airing. Whenever I could catch it.
But like live action stuff, he said before all that, it's kind of I don't remember. How
much
look at the list. I will say I enjoyed Animorphs. That was on there.
Animorphs was very weird.
Also, Guts. That was another good show I liked.
Oh, the action adventure shows, yeah.
Yeah, I love
if you get
Guts.
a chance, check.
Do you have it? Guts.
That's on Amazon.
Paramount.
Yeah.
Paramount.
I was watching it with the kids.
That's yeah. I noticed that.
I think the Animorphs show only had one season.
I looked like it.
Yeah, if you get the book series is fantastic if you can catch it.
Looking at this, and
another incredibly progressive author too.
Anything pre-94, I don't recall.
No, I mean we were literally 3 years old, so why would you recall that?
But like, I mean, I'm looking at these. I don't even remember seeing reruns or hearing about any of these others.
Nick Gass, Games and Sports.
Yes, yeah. Nick Gass.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I remember they made that one. But Double Dare and Legend of the Double Guts and Figure It Out were the ones I loved.
Have you seen the Nickelodeon documentary where they talk about all those shows?
The live action shows?
The game shows and stuff.
Oh, the game shows one. I don't think I've seen it. No, I'll look it up.
Yeah,
I feel like I've heard about that one.
I bought it. We watched it together.
Oh yeah, the Orange Years.
I think I heard about that.
The Orange Years.
Yeah,
Orange Years. Okay.
Yeah, because I
check that out. Yeah.
So, because I remember learning that Mark Summers is a germaphobe, and on Double Dare,
yeah,
you would never have thought about it. So that was incredible.
That's probably why I look at them because it's extra ironic.
So,
Ariana.
But I mean, my biggest Nickelodeon memories were animation, and then it hits all that.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you had anything else but that.
I mean, no, like I said, I didn't watch The Competition. I didn't watch Sweet Life. I didn't watch That's So Raven. I didn't watch Hannah Montana. I didn't watch Wizards of Waverly Place or any of their other weird shows. Obviously, I wasn't Disney. Disney was only for animated stuff.
I remember, again, I watched here and there stuff, but I don't recall anything. I was like, I have to watch this. I'm so excited for this. More so, it was like Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. It's on, and there's nothing else on anywhere else, so I'll watch it because I don't like that. But comparatively, we're gonna have my daughter screaming in the background.
I know she's been. Yeah, that's fine. She's recently on this podcast.
Yeah, I had no problem with what she's doing. It's just I'm sure you're gonna hear thump thump.
Have you guys what that noise is? But I was gonna say, nice little shout out thing. One time on a trip to New York with my sister. Unique New York. With my sister and our friend Steven. I think I was at like a museum or something like that. I was at one museum and they and our friend, my sister and Steven were at like sitting at a restaurant or like a fountain or something like that, and they're just like sitting there waiting for something else to happen, waiting for me or something like that. And apparently, Dylan
Sprouse?
and Cole, both of them, were like sitting next to them, and they didn't even notice
Oh,
until
snap.
people like came up and like asked for their autograph and stuff like that. So they actually met
Oh,
like,
wow.
sitting right next to them, didn't say anything, and then like they asked for their autograph, and they were like right next to them the whole time.
I feel like I mean with those two, I feel like I've heard not really bad anything about them.
No,
like,
I think one's doing like a wine or weed or alcohol business, something like that, and the other one's still acting.
yeah, because he was
So,
in
yeah.
5 Feet Apart.
Not,
was a long time ago.
not Riverdale.
Oh yeah, there was that one too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard, if I recall, I mean, I feel like I've heard that they are like one of them who is more active like online has been like really advocating and a really good person. So overall, it sounds like what I remember on them.
Yeah.
And I remember Mr. Bosby too was.
Ms. Billsby's fantastic. If you watch Kian's retrospective. He has like a like
That would be
Quinton
one I
level
would-
long about those shows. And Mosby is like the goat of that show. He's the best
was
actor. He's so
definitely-
enthusiastic. He stays enthusiastic the entire time.
And not to bring it down, but if I recall, the actress who played was it Brenda Song?
Brenda Song, yeah.
She played the rich girl who's like
Yeah.
the Paris Hilton
Yeah.
whatever. Didn't she say like there was some massive kind of weird stuff on their show?
Well, there's massive bad stuff because one of the main quite on set bad dudes. We'll get into that eventually.
that
But
one,
one of
yeah.
the major ones was caught doing a whole bunch of disgustingly terrible stuff. Sued, went to jail for a little bit, I think, and then was hired on Sweet Life of Zack and Cody after that.
I remember
fired
him.
from Nickelodeon for that, and then he went to that show. So he's probably bad on set, and he like voiced the Keanu thing Charles about. He voices like a talking mirror in this Zack and Cody show for like a couple of episodes.
Huh.
So he like mentions like he's like that's disgusting. He like tries to reference the mirror being that guy, but like
Yeah, they didn't really go into the length he was on that show
No.
on the Quiet
he
on
was
Set.
he was one of the writers, probably presumably, or like
So I mean,
coaches or something.
well, I remember he had a lot of weird bit parts overall.
Yeah, I'm
for
sure that most of
things.
those people do, unfortunately, on those shows. But yeah, so that's the competition, which we are not crazy familiar with. We covered some of the non-cinematic universe shows. We can cover the. You ready for the cinematic universe?
Yeah, well, I know technically it starts with Drake and Josh.
I would
right?
say, like I
Or-
said,
No.
so,
all that in '94, because Good Burger is canon to this whole situation.
but that is it. I mean, you'd have to almost argue that because the movie exists.
No, not Good Burger the movie. I mean, Good Burger the bit is like season 1, all that.
Right. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But like that is a part. I mean, that's a teeny part of all that because theoretically you can't say all that is because have we ever seen Repairman, man?
Pierre Escargot.
Okay, the fact that we did
Pizza
not,
face.
the fact that we did not get Pierre Escargot, there was something I remember seeing, and I
He did a
wanted.
Pierre Escargot bit on Saturday Night Live.
He did do one.
Recently, maybe probably like 4 or 5 years ago, maybe. But like, yeah, I believe he did do a Pierre Escargot bit.
Because that was one of my favorite.
Yeah,
Like
fucking
that
awesome.
was I'm not French, and obviously I'm sure that there are people who could talk on it more. But I thought it was always kind of just funny because it was the traditional, I'm going to speak similar in the traditional accent, but clearly saying gibberish kind of
Yeah,
thing.
I'm curious if we went back and watch those skits because I'm pretty sure I like took French for a year because of that dumbass. bit. Get your feet out of my potato salad. That was so ridiculous.
And
I'm sure. Yeah, we'll
if
get.
you look at, looking at them, and I got it from when we were watching the movie episode.
I was
There
like,
were
fortunately,
things
there was
that-
no foot stuff in the episode.
But there were things I was watching, and I could see on one hand the harmlessness of it, and we're trying to be goofy, fun kids. But knowing the history on what happened
Yeah.
and the reports of things, it does kind of make it hard sometimes to not think the worst.
There's a billion aspects that we're going to have to get into of why this thing can be negatively viewed in this day and age, unfortunately, including a lot of personal stuff with the actors and all kinds of stuff we'll get into at the end.
Yeah.
But, on a meta level, we're arguing about when the universe started. Technically, the production company, Schneider's Bakery, is what connects these shows and these series.
I mean, we all know.
Yeah, no, I'm saying
we all know that there's like randomly there's. We don't know why they're all connected, but there's something that
just
connects them all.
But yeah,
it's something to do, I'm sure, with some kind of like it's just all baked together.
Yeah, baked together.
There you go. That's what it is.
Gen 1, all that started in '94, and then of course that spun off into one of my personal favorites, Kenan and Kel, in '96. Which
That's
ran
right. Kenan and Kel was technically before Amanda's show.
Yeah, 96 to 2000.
That show I definitely watched.
And it was like a normal like sitcom, not like a sketch show like the other ones were. It's like that was the first sitcom, even though it was set up like a
you know what's
like
crazy?
An actual sitcom, but it actually had the actual live audience.
I'm actually crazy too to think that that Ken Foray was in that because I remember watching the show, and it wasn't until I watched the original Dawn of the Dead and I saw him, and I was like. And this is, it's funny to be, for me to say, oh, I recognize that guy. He's the dad from Kenan and Kel.
Oh yeah. I remember, what was his name? He was like Big Something in the Rob Zombie Halloween movies. He was like one of the big giant dudes. He was like, he fought him at the beginning of the second movie, I believe.
I don't remember ever seeing that one, but I
he
remember seeing. Ken Foray was. And it's funny too to think that Ken Foray, this big name actor, was on a Nickelodeon show,
for
Kenan and Kel.
4 years. Yeah.
That show, and it was also. How crazy it is too. They even brought one of the guys who was really popular from Head of the Class on. Think about how random that connection is.
His boss was very funny. How exasperating he always was.
Everyone, all the mainstays on that show. Honestly, you could say like the sister, Kenan's character sister, was maybe one of the weakest overall.
Yeah, she was vaguely familiar. I think I might have seen her in some other shows probably back then. But yeah,
but
I'm curious what kind of people showed up in that show.
But yeah, like Kenan and Kel, his dad, even too, like the mom wasn't. She was. It was it was early '90s, so you had the traditional trope of the mom is just grounded, always separate from ever. The two male leads get into craziness, and the dad gets pulled into it. Yeah. They copied that in that weird show with the guys who did pranks, Jackass. They did that same thing for a while too.
Yeah.
A bunch of guys got the dad brought in.
Dad about Oh god, but yeah, Kenan and Kel, fantastic show. I don't know if it has any. Actually, I don't believe it has any like lore, quote unquote, implications to the other series for the most part.
I bet you if you
except for like the meta thing with like them being a show in other that gets mentioned in the other series.
Yeah, it's funny because Kenan and Thompson is. And we will, as we get to the movie,
obviously.
He is a big name, but he's connected to Saturday Night Live in this show, ironically, and all that.
Alluded to,
which did have a good joke. That was that was a genuinely funny ass joke.
There was a couple. I barely wrote down notes because we did this live. We watched it like immediately and then did the.
Then we played a game of Magic Gathering, which I defensively won somehow.
Of course you did. But yeah.
Well, to be fair, you won because it was your deck. So, no matter what, you won that game.
But it was there was a couple of funny bits. I hope I wrote down one of the jokes that made me really laugh, like actually funny. But yeah, Kenan and Kel, 96 to 2000. And in that same window, spun off from all that, just like Kenan and Kel, The Amanda Show, 99 to 2002. Which
is his own weird thing to think about because I do also remember when Amanda Bynes came to all of that. Mm-hmm. Because I remember it was like they had like a funniest kid in America contest. Yeah. And she won that contest, and that's how she got added on to that OG cast. Yeah. And I remember, I don't have negative like fondness or memories of the second when they kind of did like that
the
full reboot series of them.
Jamie Lynn Spears and people were from. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, then also too, like the Lisa Foyles and all that group. Nick Cannon.
Yeah.
He was on the second wave.
He was the second series. Yeah.
But I've always thought too, like the fact that so many of the big name OG cast didn't go. I get nowadays, but like Lori Beth was she and Danny Tamborelli. I always remember loving them. Obviously, Kenan and Kel got their show. There were so many of them, I remember. And
Yeah, a lot of them really didn't take off as much as the second crew did. This is weird. Because
Yeah,
I thought,
yeah.
of course, as somebody who grew up with the original series, I thought the original run was fantastic. The second run, I did not enjoy it as, like, half as much.
I mean, I hold a higher fondness for the OGs, but I remember enjoying that second wave a lot. Like, it was because I think it was because it was close enough, and I think they had cameos from them occasionally.
Yeah, occasionally they bring one of the two of the actors, and then they had that big.
Because I know
episode.
the one actor who was on Quiet on the Set, I recall, didn't he do a version of Repairman, and we got Kel Mitchell coming back.
There was a like anniversary thing that they did do that literally legit brought me to tears at the end with Keaton and Kel in the old man outfits being like, "Oh, the show's over. Oh yeah, kick it!" And then like people walk off the stage. I literally was in tears at the end of that reunion
I'm
episode.
sure I was too.
It tore me up. I was destroyed.
They had, and you know what?
But I think that might have been like either like at the end of the second series or like the end of the show, maybe in general. I'm not sure. I can't remember when that was.
But yeah, the OGs, I mean, again, it was weird that it didn't take off, but I loved them and I enjoyed the second wave. But I remember too, and I don't think he was one of the problematic people, so I can say it. Like Kevin, I remember. No, my daughter wants an apple. Sorry. But I remember Kevin. 5 minutes. We always joke because my dad was he was bald. My dad is bald, so my dad would joke too with us because he watched it with us as well. So 5 minutes. The show starts in 5 minutes. Lori Beth and her obsession with the big ear of corn. And it's funny thinking at it as we're talking about it and thinking about it. Obviously Kenan Thompson is on Saturday Night Live now. Mm-hmm. And I know too, like he and Kel are still friends, and they both applied. And obviously,
they split up, and we're talking for a couple of years in the middle, maybe like probably a decade,
which makes sense.
Yeah,
but you think about all that. I mean, in the obviously Pierre Escargot, but the vast majority of skits that I remember being like over the top, like memorable, Kel Mitchell was the lead. The crotchety coach, Good Burger, Repairman.
He was Pizza Face in that skit with Ear Boy.
Yeah, so many great.
Ross Perot.
He did
so random.
He did so many of those big name memorable skits.
Yeah, huge energetic dude.
He really did, and the fact that he made the SNL, I mean,
maybe he doesn't apply to it. He was
because he and Kenan. I remember reading the story. They applied it together.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Kenan made it, and he didn't, and I'm sure that. Whether they say it or not, there was probably some quota that had to be
100%. Yeah, and that they probably like, no, we have him, and we have a ton of black writers. We have JB Smooth in the writer's office. You can stay in the writer's office, and he's like, I don't want to do that. Probably, and just took off.
Yeah, and
that's why.
Because Kel, I mean, and hey, again, I still put it out there that Paul W. Anderson can come on the podcast. Yeah. We will grill him and make him repent. We will just we will watch. I will watch every episode of all of that, and if Kel Mitchell wants to come on, we will just talk about all that, and we will tell you how amazing you were at all of your amazing skits.
Yeah, you were fantastic.
And we will of course cut out anything that would have been problematic. And if you want to ruin our childhood, go ahead. Because
he's pretty chill. He's in another show later on. We'll get to about the cinematic universe. He's a main character in it. But before that...
I think I remember hearing about that. I mean, surprised.
We'll get down the line. Because we're only at show number 3. There's a very long list. The Amanda Show, which I thought was absolutely incredible.
I enjoyed the hell out of it, too.
Penelope Taint, was that the one with the
Amanda
Please?
Penelope Taint was her biggest fan.
Yeah.
That never
Amanda,
always
please.
That always missed out on meeting her and seeing her.
Stalking her.
Which it was there was Apache the Pirate.
Pretty much
for that show.
The Dancing Lobsters, of course. The prank phone calls, like everything on that show was fantastic.
No, I mean I can't believe that old man had some funny lines.
Yeah.
And everything. It was. I'm
surprised he never came back and never acted in anything again.
Yeah, I really whoever wrote his, I don't want to say whoever wrote his lines.
I'm sure he wrote most of the lines on the show.
So, I mean, it was, I think it was always funny that he always got, like, terrible things happening to him.
Yeah, beaten up, things dropped on his head, pranked phone called. He deserved all that.
Yes, he definitely deserved it. And he was the kind of person who deserved to be pranked.
Of course. But yeah, in that window when she had her own show, the second series of all that aired. But eventually, around the finale of the Amanda show, of course, as Quinton puts it, two actors had a funny little skit where they fought over a piece of shrimp. And they were so good that they got their own show. And this is probably the main linchpin beginning of the narrative universe.
Zoe 101.
Zoe 101. 2005 to 2008. No, Drake and Josh 2004 to 2007.
That was another show.
This is when I was out on Nickelodeon.
You were out?
Yeah, this is when I was done. I never watched a single episode of Drake and Josh. I had no interest in watching it because that is like we talked about before. That's about when Noggin and the End began, and I discovered Degrassi. I discovered South of Nowhere, and that Nickelodeon kid shit. I'm over it. If the show's over, I'm out of Nickelodeon. Screw that. I'm only into cool stuff now.
Because I think you're a year older than me about?
You
said you were born November 89.
Mathematically a year older, but we've been in the same grade.
8 months apart, but I see Drake and Josh, I was all in.
Oh, no, I was done with Nickelodeon at that point.
All that stuff, Drew Crazy Steve. It's funny to think that this is a shout out to
Jamie Traynor?
Yvette Brown.
Oh,
because I remember her as Helen, but I also think of her as Shirley, and I don't think of her as one actress playing two roles.
Two different characters.
Those two characters are so different and distinct in my memory that she is literally two people in my mind.
Hell yeah.
I mean, so many of them, and then even like the nerds, and everything, like. And it's funny too, with everything going on. Like I loved Drake and Josh. I thought it was fun, great, and I think and I think it helped too because I loved the Amanda. I loved all that, which led into the Amanda show, and I love the Amanda show. And then those two, Drake and Josh were huge. They were huge in it.
Oh yeah.
The hillbilly, knock knock jokes. But even too, I think it helped that the parents and all those skits were also in Drake and Josh. So, it was like flowing from one to the other. So I was big into Drake and Josh. I loved it. I enjoyed the hell out of it. And everything. And it was just fun for me.
Yeah. Like I said, I never checked it out, but I knew about the show. And of course, from that show, their little sister Megan was such a fun breakout star that she ended up getting her own series, which brings us to our current coverage of the show, iCarly. But before that, honestly, yes, you're right. A show I know, again, like Drake and Josh, I was completely out of Nickelodeon. We completely skipped over it because from the second series of all that, which was still running up to Drake and Josh, the second running of all that was happening, Jamie Lynn Spears from that got her own show.
That's right. Yeah.
And that's Zoe 101, which is also part of this connected universe. 2005, 2008, again, never saw a single episode of it.
See, that one I
saw
did
promotions
watch.
while I was switching through channels. I never ever watched a single show. I don't know.
Unlike Drake and Josh and Amanda show, I watched Zoe 101, but that was one of those shows that I remember it. I don't want to say even similar to Sweet Life, but it was in
my brain. It was like it might as well have been a Disney show.
It just kind of sit into that Disney show vibe in a weird way because even the
Dan,
colorations.
If you watched it, you're always welcome on the podcast.
You have to come closer to talk so we can get heard. So. Because it does have a very good similar color, very different color palette.
And it wasn't. It was probably the only one that wasn't like a laugh track. I don't think that show didn't have a laugh track.
It did not.
It's the only one that didn't. I think in this whole list of shows. I think.
I just want to cut in and say that they had a reunion movie recently.
Zoe 102.
No, well, I don't remember what it was called, but basically it says that their educations were null and void because it wasn't even a real school. And so basically they were just stealing money from their parents, like the school was.
That's hilarious.
And so none of them had degrees, and the school shut down right after they left because it was fraud.
I think Quinton talked about it in his review that didn't they actually have an actual ending and a happy ending for everybody?
The show's series finale had a proper ending, but then all those characters, whenever they make cameos, their lives are all falling apart and they're all doing terribly.
Yeah.
Two of them get married in the movie.
Yeah, I remember hearing the two of them got married, but even then they didn't Zoe and the guy that she ended up with and they thought they were gonna be happy. they had broken up. He was going to get married, but then she called on him, and he basically left his fiance to go back to her or something.
No.
I thought there was,
No,
but yeah.
He leaves a time capsule video for her, and when it comes time to open it.
So he leaves that time capsule video, and
when it's time to open it, he panics and he goes and digs it up so that she can't see it.
He opens up that time capsule. I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember that. Like, the show just had, like I said, because like I think about
what was the premise? Because I don't know what the hell it was.
They were
in a private school.
Okay.
Like it was like a beach school.
It was originally an all boys school, and then
That's right. It opened up with the girls.
Yeah, just like us for the first time.
Yes, Mr. Interrupter.
Well, to be fair, I'm trying to because you can't be heard. I'm sure. So I'm trying to make sure things can be said.
Yeah. Oh, I was gonna say I unintentionally stole that premise for the little mini D&D thing we did. I had no idea.
Oh yeah, you did the reverse. I think.
Yeah.
That's right. But like I remember because like I think of like even Keenan and Kel, which was ironically before it all, like that, all that show, Amanda's show, and even Drake and Josh. Their color palette was very like bright, like tan, warmish.
Yeah, like this overexposed the sitcom like lighting.
Yeah, but the Zoe 101 because so much of it was outside.
And it was supposed to be like a real show. Not
it had a cool color filter, even on the interiors, and that was something that, and somehow even like Sweet Life, even though that was I know that show's like main color was red. It had a cooler color palette in my memory.
Yellow, the building with the thing was like a yellowish tan.
Like those colors just didn't pop that same overexposed way. But like Zoe 101 sat in a weird. I mean, I remember everything being blue and white and like and blue coded. Yeah, basically, and everything. But all the other shows in this universe had that.
Because they're all very overexposed. Supposedly, like we even talk about the laugh track thing. I don't think nothing beyond maybe the Amanda show was supposed to be in front of a live studio audience. But these are all laugh tracks. These are all like long dead ghosts from the 70s and 80s that are just using their like the laugh track because none of these things are in front of a live studio audience anymore. Besides all that, I don't think they're all old like Hollywood laugh tracks, which are literally known to be like. Decades and decades old. All those are ghosts you're hearing laugh all these times.
That's not. Well, I mean, to be fair, I've learned like the Wilhelm scream came about because someone thought it would be funny to take like stock footage that had or stock sound effects that had like gone into public domain.
Of course.
And I thought this one was funny, and he happened to work on Star Wars. I mean, in theory, like. Anything. I mean, that of course that was the shouting out to another YouTuber who makes really long, in-depth videos, H Bomber guy, and his whole thing about the Roblox
the oof was very funny.
And I did not know about Tommy Tallarico.
I did know because I watched the game trailers show he was on. I didn't know he was a producer until before that, but yeah, it was very, very funny.
Yeah, I did not know about him until that, and oh. There's a car down.
Car down. But yeah, what the hell were we? Oh yeah, the laugh track thing. The Zoe 101's the only show that was not supposedly like laugh track using, I believe. Because it was supposed to be kind of a pseudo drama.
It really did have a bit more of an, and maybe that's why I felt different. It did have a bit of, even though it was a bit goofy at times, it did have a much more mature setting. Mm-hmm. But honestly, it's funny you mentioned that because and it's in my notes later, but when we watched this episode of iParty with Victorious, there was a moment near the beginning that had a bit more silence and emotional thing, but it didn't have because they used the laugh track so much, they'd also use the like all those generic sound effects. But there was a moment they didn't use it, and it did actually feel just like weirdly uncomfortable.
I would say if you have a chance to look up any of the Friends or Big Bang Theory without the laugh track, it's very interesting to see those shows when they edit out the laugh track with like all the people just kind of standing around weirdly or just like jokes not landing, or it's an interesting experience. And like that's why I said I would love to see one of these weird Nickelodeon shows without the laugh track at all.
Though interestingly, they built one audience react noise into the script, when Rex is doing the rap, he literally does he does a pause for the audience to react.
Yeah.
And it was like a blatant, like, you broke your flow, and we'll get into that.
There's no fucking flow in any of those lines, but we'll
get into that.
When we get there
but he
eventually.
literally broke that to let the audience react to one of his lines, and then kept going.
Of course. But yeah, and then of course, like I said, after the Drake and Josh spinoff, Zoe 101 was till 2008. In 2007, iCarly began, and it ran until 2012.
And see, that's about where I think I fell out. Okay. Like, I remember watching some of the early episodes, but it was kind of like that. Again,
that was our freshman year, I believe. No.
That was our senior year.
Senior year.
Yeah, we graduated.
2007.
We graduated 08.
We would have been juniors.
We were
juniors into senior.
Yeah, junior
what
into
month?
senior. I'm not gonna check that.
All right, I'll check.
Well, you check that. I'm gonna go to the bathroom. All right, we're back.
Yep. So we were seniors because it aired in September 8th, 2007.
Okay, so yeah.
So ironically, that was a month before I first went to Rocky Horror Picture Show for the first time.
Holy
that was
dollar.
because I went during Homecoming afterwards. Never had heard about it and ended up going to Rocky Horror, and now we're recording this at the end of March, and I'm assuming this will probably come out before May.
Probably not. It might come out in May, I would say.
In May. So when this comes out, if this comes out in May of 2025, that is my 15-year anniversary on cast.
Hell yeah.
So
maybe we'll make one of these anniversaries. We keep missing them by days.
So that I mean, it's early May because the way we are saying is. So we were seniors in high school, and I remember seeing it on TV, but we were still in that era before Netflix had gotten its streaming.
Yeah, I was gonna
because
say,
I worked for Blockbuster, and I remember Netflix through the mail. Blockbuster ended up getting its own through the mail thing, and that whole
nearing the end of that series, yeah.
So it was one of those things. If I watched iCarly, it's because there was nothing else on that I was interested in, and I liked Crazy Steve.
No, Crazy Steve was hilarious.
He really was.
During this time, 2007, I looked it up, and I was just curious what was going on during the time. Leanne might know this with me. The best generation of Degrassi, with Claire and Adam and so many wonderful, dope characters.
Claire and Eli.
Eli's psycho ass.
Yes.
But yeah, that was right in the window where we were both teenagers in high school at the time. So it was extra personal to us. Like, okay, this is the best gen because now they're our age. And so
Never watched Degrassi.
Rewatch Degrassi. It's worth it. It's so hyper drama.
Honestly, I'll probably get put on a list if I try to watch it nowadays because it's Canadian.
Oh yeah, you're right.
And anything Canadian is probably going to be banned for a while.
It was on
or it's going to cost me 25% more to actually watch it.
Of course, yeah.
Topical tariff joke. Fuck you, Trump. Anyway, hey.
If it's Netflix, I found out that after the show finished airing in Canada, there was a Netflix revival for like a couple seasons, Next Class, which I never saw a single episode of. But I watched a breakdown of what was going on. I was like,
it is dramatic.
I mean, the whole series is
it's like
hyper drama.
100 times more dramatic.
You see, this is what we're on. How are you going to watch iCarly and Victorious if that's what the other options are?
I mean, it's iCarly. I mean, it's also funny watching and looking back on it because it is like it was internet humor before actual internet humor existed.
Yeah, just like Quinton was talking about, they were like predicting what the culture would be. They were off, of course, like most things that try to predict the future, but they were on to something because internet fame would be still to this day a major, huge aspect of media that like blew up beyond anyone could imagine.
And also too, and it's kind of interesting that I know he's on YouTube, and I don't know what the site uses anymore, but that guy with the glasses and that whole website, which obviously has its own
Channel Awesome or whatever.
Channel Awesome, yeah. But for the longest time, like even if it's only on Netflix on YouTube nowadays, I do remember watching that on its own site, like Channel Awesome website.
Yeah.
So in a way, while it was off, there was something about the iCarly webpage existing, and that's where people would watch and tune in on. And like the fact that there are channels that did get big from stuff like that. It is interesting to think. I mean, we look at internet history now in history, like fame, and I mean, really too. This is almost. I mean, this is literally a TV show. Obviously, you could tell. No matter how much they tried, it was a TV show
episode
level
of television. Yeah.
Right, but like the quality of their showings, like random humor is not something like around that time too. There was how many of the big
stuff, yeah.
the old school big name guys were just people who did random skits of things.
Of course, yeah.
So like it definitely did miss the mark, but it also didn't completely miss the mark, if that makes any kind of sense. Like, it's weird that iCarly exists in a world where just because it wasn't right doesn't mean it was wrong.
Yeah, they were
in terms of what it was going to
what it was
predict.
predicting and what it was showing and displaying. Yeah, like I said, they were calling for something and they were like almost there, like that.
Yeah.
Approximate.
Also, I never noticed the phone style until Quinton Reviews.
It completely went over my head.
The phone,
even like
I noticed. I always did notice the symbol was different.
Yeah, the pair thing.
Yeah, which makes sense on like the back of a computer. But
Quinton talked about it, how it was only like I think the second or third season of iCarly where they actually changed what they look like. But the pair thing was around earlier, like I think in Zoe 101 and Drake and Josh all the way back then. But the actual phone changing to the pear shape was only like halfway through iCarly.
I could see that.
And then Victoria's also had it.
I feel like that was one of those like, oh, we got this thing that we're gonna do, and people have noticed it, so let's capitalize on that and make our own
fun
thing.
Gag, which I think it's legit funny. I would like Quentin. I would love to have one of those things. They actually, you saw when they picked up their phone and like touched it and did stuff on it, like the back lit up, like actually like did something.
I mean,
was so shocked.
I mean, I would assume that those aren't actual. Those are basically like the same kind of kids' toys you can buy for $5.
Yeah. I'm sure
and that would be full priced when it launched, and then the next day it would be in the clearance bin for 50 cents.
Yeah, I'm sure.
That
Yeah, it's so hilarious that those things are so stupid. And yeah, like when it goes on for so many episodes that it makes no sense. How would you watch videos on that thing? It's not shaped properly in the slightest.
Yeah. So.
And Ariana was then helped.
not well, it's funny you say that, and I know you're talking about my daughter, which ironically I will say. So when we were expecting her, we were trying to come up with names, and we were coming up with boy names and girl names. Do we know at the time if she'd be a boy or girl, or no?
I think we did.
We did. Yeah. So we were coming with girl names, and we were watching. Because I had gotten back in, so my wife was watching Big Brother, and I was watching it with her, and we were on season 16, where ironically, someone who is technically mentioned in this episode movie thing,
holy moly,
Frankie Grande was on Big Brother 16.
Oh wow! Yeah, character who's referenced, true.
Yeah. Which when that got explained.
Oh yeah, we'll
me,
get to that character soon. I was about to say something.
But we joked and said Ariana would be a funny name,
really?
Like whatever.
I had no idea.
What we said was Frankie. Because that's a gender neutral.
Oh yeah, Frankie is gender neutral.
Frankie.
But then we said no because, and I say this not knowing A, he's not going to listen to us because we don't have as many followers, but B, his name is going to be mentioned. Frankie Grande's name got mentioned, so he very much might listen to this whole episode just because
I'm
of
sure
that.
He has a Google alert.
Exactly.
So I want you to tag him in the tags for the episode.
Put him in the SEO, so he'll see this. So I don't say so.
As long as Frankie D doesn't try to kill us.
I'm going to talk. Yeah, I'm going to talk.
Kill and eat us, as he's done to do.
I will say this as nice but honest as I can. The version of himself that we got on Big Brother was both a clearly very strong player, used his position and leverage to his ability, but also, whether he intended to or not, was a villain, and I was not rooting for him to win BB16. Yeah. Had he won, he absolutely would have earned that win. But the fact that we watched him get eliminated so close to the end was a nice catharsism as I've watched the season many times over.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so Frankie Grande did have a slight connection to my daughter's name of Ariana.
That's
Though we
awesome.
spell it with 2 N's instead of 1 because we are original, and that way it's even actually legally distinct from the popular Ariana.
Yeah.
Because apparently, though, watching this episode, I was like, how the heck did they write her character's plot line in the crossover between iCarly and Victorious? We will get to it, I'm sure, very soon.
Insane.
Because I think we're getting close to the point where we have to talk about the episode because we can't talk about the 2 shows without talking about what we watched.
Well, yeah, in terms of, iCarly coverage that, again, 2007,
I never watched Victorious, by the way.
Victorious,
I was
2010
done.
to 2013. Now,
Completely
I would
done.
say, contrary to Quinton, who's, I would say, is definitively, he's like, probably maybe 10 or so years younger than us.
Is he really that much younger than us?
He's significantly younger than us, yes.
He's one of
those zillennials.
5 to 7 years, I think.
Him
because
and Kian are both zillennials.
Well, I think it was Kian mentions not seeing some stuff from that.
Oh yeah, if you watch
he
his videos,
knew.
it's gonna be. I was talking to Kavina about it. Like, there's some real specific stuff. Like, there's references and actors that he just does not get or does not point out when in his stuff because he doesn't know who they are.
Quinton?
No, both Kian and Quinton, because they're slightly younger than us, or there are references to media and stuff that we'll know that they will just completely ignore or block or whatever. But he was so emphatically enthusiastic about iCarly, being a little bit older and watching stuff about Victorious and iCarly. I would say that Victorious would be a show that I would more likely have watched. Than iCarly, yeah.
See, I
was 20 when it started, so I probably wouldn't watch it. But at the time, if those 2 shows were airing at a time when I was watching that kind of stuff, I probably would have watched Victorious because character-wise, comedy tone-wise, I think it's actually much funnier than iCarly. And I think it's much more interesting, the characters and the dynamic and the plot setup. I think it's much more interesting than iCarly's.
See, I'm in a weird split decision because the way some of the characters are described, I could see that and everything, but I think the size and the fact that so many of them seemingly were underused.
Oh yeah.
Whereas for the better or worse, the main obviously Gibby shows up later on, and I guess that was his name, the dude who showed up in the late seasons from the shack, the milkshake place, who lives with Freddie's mom apparently.
Tito or Tebow?
Tebow. Yeah, I don't ever remember Tebow.
No.
Ever. And anything I watched, the few times I did watch iCarly, I don't remember him at all.
Tebow's in only in the late seasons, and he's only a bit character.
And I do remember Gibby here and there. Yeah. But those 4 being the main, each one felt like they were used. Spencer, Freddie, Sam, and Carly. So the fact that all of them felt hard used, and then you listen to Quinton mention the guys just kind of sit there.
They kind of just chill and don't really have too many plot lines. Yeah. I would think Robbie gets a good amount of stuff. He's pretty funny.
He does. And, apparently the fact that we learned that the dude is actually super cool and enjoy. And is
really cool dude.
And is using nostalgia in a good way.
Oh, yeah.
That
to help people to, yeah.
And honestly, too, in a unique way.
Bring people together in a nice, positive way, yeah.
Because you know what? I am not a person who would go to, raves and dance parties and stuff. But genuinely, a rave that is, 90s era, theme songs and stuff like that.
Yeah. That looked legit fun, yeah.
Yeah, because we went to a few conventions together, anyone starts the Pokemon theme song, the entire place will start singing that.
Everyone will know every single one of those 150 in order.
and the funny, that's the poker rap. I'm talking about the theme song.
Oh, the theme song. Oh,
the basic theme
Theme
song here.
song, of course.
Listen, not many people can actually say they know the poker rap.
No,
Electro, Diglett, Nidoran, Mankey, Venusaur, Rattata, Pharaoh, Pidgey, Seaking, Jolteon, Dragonite, Ghastly, Ponyta, Vaporeon, Poliwrath, Butterfree!
Of course, yes, we all know.
Of course, as we all know. But, learning about what he does with that, with DJing, and that it's not just generic basic music, that it is taking something from history, that is mixing up, because he does, Victorious, just because I was out of it, there are parts that still kind of are fed in from the early years we were watching. Mm-hmm. That is something I would be into. All of that said, him, the person, is awesome, and I'm very glad. That character and the puppet And maybe it's just
I
the
think
way it's
Rex
presented.
sucks, but I think Robbie is funny.
See, and I didn't get enough of Robbie in.
I mean, really, the bit where he
this.
tried to rap and he sucked, and he was like, "Hey, you guys, you got to be," and he gets hit in the head with a plant.
Okay, that was funny. You know
That
what?
was
Okay,
pretty good.
I agree. You know, that also brings up
And
more
all the
questions.
Sandberg bit, like, "Get off the stage, Sandberg."
Yes. I mean, the fact that I feel like we should have. I mean, this is there were 2 cameos that should have been in this that were not. Like, for one, Kel Mitchell obviously should have been in this, and also because they mentioned him, they should have been. And maybe this was too early on, and he didn't have the hard connection. But we should have gotten Andy Samberg at some point somewhere. And honestly, I'll tell you what. And if someone knows this, if he is not one of the background extras, then that would have been the best thing if you had Andy Samberg in it and he was a background extra, continuously showing up in all of the scenes whenever they said the word Samberg.
That would have been great. I'm pretty sure that the Sandberg is a running bit with Robbie. That like
I do remember that.
Yeah. But also, this is like I said, this is a very low production, just like episode that they just managed to get Keenan into. There's like no production value for any actual cameos, I don't think.
I mean, to be fair, the reason it got Keenan in it was because of his connection to Nickelodeon.
Of course, yeah, that's what he's tied to it.
And I guarantee you, like, and I think it's probably too why when the Quiet on Set stuff came out, he wasn't discussed or talked too much about in it. I do believe that there are people in that era who, just because they were around where these things were happening, were not influenced positively or negatively in an impactful way, that they know that their stories don't hold weight and they're not clout seeking. And also too, and I think too, because Keenan is in a point where, I mean, he's been on SNL at this point for so long. He knows, he's been in the business and he knows no matter what, truth or not, he's not going to speak up too much because unfortunately we live in a very fucked up society makes talking about these things very much a problem. Unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm very curious if he has written a book or if he will eventually someday. I hope he does, because he definitely probably has a lot to talk about.
I mean, and honestly too, the fact that Keenan and Kel does sit in that weird time period where, like, obviously there's connective tissues between, like, all the cinematic stuff, but then also, like, again, we never hear about Keenan and Kel for the most part hard in universe. We get Kenan Thompson, and I'm sure, like, yes, Kel is going to be in some stuff, but he's as Kel Mitchell as new characters. Like, Kenan and Kel exist in a very different position than every single other property in that weird universe.
No.
Like, if you was talking about Kenan Kel specifically, I won't.
Because we were talking about the Keenan cameo in the movie, which we were not talking about yet.
Oh yeah,
we're in the middle of Victorious, and then we're talking about the guys being pretty chill, but not too much going on. Like Beck, I don't think Beck had like more than 3 lines this whole fucking thing. But when we get more into specifics, like the guys barely have anything to do. But I think the female characters are like all diversely interesting. Ooh, beer chug burp. Diversively interesting enough to have all the different story beats that they have. Like everyone from Jade to Trina to Kat to even Tori, I think they're all like different enough and personality established enough that they can have like wacky adventures pairing them up with any 2 of them or any of the guys who are pretty passive for the most part.
Honestly, did feel like the only characters, like you said, like honestly, like the boyfriend in this episode, I genuinely thought at first that was a main character from one of the shows, assuming Victorious.
He might could have been.
He looked like it. And like the most you got out of anyone was Andre running around trying to stop a panda with a tennis racket.
I would say that was probably, like, from what we remember from the, like I said, we didn't really marathon these shows, but from what I remember about the Quinton stuff, that feels like a very Keenan and Kel like bit for him to be doing the whole episode, like running around the party trying to do something, being more energetic, because that's way out of character for him. I'm pretty sure like all the other guys, he's usually pretty like whatever, and passive, being pulled along with the crazy story that the girls are doing usually. And
in all honesty, like, let's be honest, he was the one who doing that and had the connection because Keenan is black, and the actor
more
was
than that,
Andre's
yeah.
black.
Yeah.
So you had two black characters doing the same thing because writing black characters is difficult
I'm
for a
sure
lot
they
of these
had,
white
I doubt
writers.
a single black writer in that whole staff with the Snyder Bakery group.
Yeah,
Wouldn't be
which
surprised, yeah.
I mean, it's crazy to think about too. Like Keenan and Kel was the first
I
big
bet
hit show.
Honestly, if we had did the research, I'm sure that show had a number of black writers that weren't in Amanda's show, Drake and Josh, or Zoe 101. I doubt they were in the studio for those characters.
You know, as you say that, I'm actually very curious now. Like, I want to know the lore and like the history on Keenan and Kel because, like, obviously,
I hope they write a book. Like I said,
I mean, but obviously, like he had some influence over that and was on it, and obviously the
Keenan or he the non-speaking of producer.
The non-speaking of producer because again, I know we made the joke before, but I didn't realize until one of my rewatches about when I mentioned until I watched like one of the last videos on Quinton's thing, I did not realize that the store owner, that Keenan's boss, I did not realize that was one of those an actor who got big and head of the class. Which
knew him from before. I don't know if it was that show or something, but I knew that the boss was an actor from old sitcom stuff.
But I mean, like the fact that he has that. I mean, listen, he killed that role.
He was great,
and
his constant exasperation at anything Kel was doing was great.
Exactly, and I'm hoping that he has nothing connected to all of that dark tissues.
Yeah.
So I say that with whatever, but like taking that aside, like I mean there was a lot. I mean, I look at someone like the fact that Ken Foray was in it, and that's where I want to hope and believe that there definitely were black
Anyone
voices.
was too scared to do anything with him.
Well, I mean, he's like what 6.5 feet tall.
He's giant and scary.
Yes, I mean he is a big scary man,
and I'd say pretty serious and a good actor. So I would hope that he was keeping an eye out,
exactly.
like Goomer in Sam and Cat.
Yeah,
keeping an eye out for the actors and actresses on set to not be messed with.
But like Ken Foray is, I mean, that is like a big name actor who because I actually watched an Adam Conover video talking about like how movie stars are gone for the most part, and like what we think of them are all in their 60s, 70s as youngest, like 70s, 80s, 90s, whatever. Ken Foray is that for that era. If Ken Foray did not like what's going to happen, his voice holds weight, and I know for a fact that Nickelodeon would not listen to him. So there definitely was. So I'm curious to be like, because also too, like you think back, which again I will point out too that one of the most infamous things from Keenan and Kel, who loves orange soda? Kel loves orange soda. Is it true? Mm-hmm. I do.
Yeah.
But
amazing bit.
Exactly. But like overall, there wasn't a weird. Like you can look back, and I'm sure if I look back, there's weird moments.
I'm sure there's weird stuff.
Things do not sit. I don't ever looking back and thinking anything was over gross out.
Yeah, but I mean, like that's another show. Unlike these, which we're watching now, which are both 15 plus years old. I don't know if there would be a deep dive or anything into those shows, and there hasn't been. I haven't really no interest in rewatching like traditionally.
Are you talking about Keenan Kel, or are you talking about
Keenan? No, I'm saying like just like iCarly Forward, which we're going to eventually get to the other shows. The weird stuff. I guess also I didn't want to talk too much about the weird stuff because, like I said, I was aware of this because I was like a super online person on sites like 4chan and stuff back in 2007. So all the stuff about the producer and stuff was known and joked about openly back then in those communities and like pointed out and referenced and stuff. But even in that time, 15 years ago now, or even more, there was not a particular amount of bad stuff, I don't think, in Drake and Josh or in the Amanda Show for the most part, or in all that, or in Keenan and Kel. It's mostly this point with iCarly Forward, that stuff was, openly bad. I mean, but like I said, when talking about it, there was never too much stuff like that. But also,
I think there was definitely like, again, thinking back, because I'm sure if we go back, I'm sure if you look, there's the gross out humors and stuff. But it does, and I think even Quinton, and again, we try not to point out too much of what he says, but Quinton made a point that there is a potential where like we do live in a different society. So like things you thought you only put in because farts are funny, feet are funny. Nowadays we know with the internet
Yeah.
There is nothing sacred anymore thanks to the internet.
Of course.
So like that, I mean, whether those people hold those or not, there were no explicit purpose of putting them in. Yeah. And I think that Kenan Kel, I feel like was the most removed. I'm sure Zoe 101 had some.
Oh, I have no doubt.
And to an extent, I'm sure
there's other bad stuff going on with that show that we'll talk about probably at some point. But
I'm sure too that if you look back at Drake and Josh, there's stuff, and unfortunately, probably the fact that was two male leads. Yeah. That is probably why that show is, and Kenan Kel was before it. And Drake and Josh had two male leads, and I think the fact that, unfortunately, because male leads are harder, especially in that era, to do so, because the majority of things are being made from the male perspective, and the men in power are doing what they've always done, and that's fetishizing women. So I think that's why we don't see it until Zoe 101 and then start doing iCarly and Victorious, where you are getting those female-led shows. Yeah. And I mean, you can think about it too, like in Kenan Kel, the main character, but you have the mother, she's married, so you can't do anything with that. And also, because Ken Forey would say something. And then a young child, which is the only little girl in it.
Yeah, they didn't have like romance or love interest or anything.
Exactly. And hers was, that's always kind of weird that she was like obsessed with Kel.
Yeah.
But then in Drake and Josh, you had Miranda Cosgrove's character, Megan, who was just a nasty thing. And I say this again, not whatever, but Helen was played by a black actress, and she's
also older and not sexualized in the narrative in any way.
Exactly.
I'm pretty sure.
There's that, but I think too, unfortunately, and you could, and we want to drop a conversation. We want to drop the conversation at a point. You stop me, but I would assume, especially in that era, that black women are not given that same sexualization, whether they are younger or older or not.
Well, who knows what Keke Palmer's experiments on True Jackson's VP were? Who could have been bad for all we know. But also, I would say I did want to save. I know, but I did want to save. True Jackson was another Nickelodeon show with Keke Palmer was a fashion. She was a fashion, but it was back when she was a kid, like around our age. But I do want to save the Quiet on Set and all those allegation stuff for a little bit later, because while we're talking about Drake and Josh, like, we know that set was really bad for fucking...
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So there was a lot of really bad stuff happening.
But
I do want to save the whole, all the crazy allegations and stuff for a little bit later.
So, but I guess I think again, like I say, I only bring up that is because I think, like, in traditional shows like that, like, especially in a setting that is, again, unfortunately to say, for a predominantly and focused on white people. I don't want to say white people, but white people. I mean, it's a white. It was white writers. I guarantee you, like I said, with Kenan Kel, I'm sure they had black voices and black writers. I would wager that and again, if I'm wrong,
it was 96 to 2000, probably not too many.
Exactly. I mean, the fact that
probably maybe one
without
person.
Going too deep into it, the fact that we learned that the Amanda Show writer had two women sharing a salary.
Yeah.
Tells you that no matter how progressive they might have been, that there were not many voices in that room that were not white men.
Yeah, not a lot of non-representation during that time period.
And especially older white men, they're going to not. So that's basically what I'm trying to say is Yvette Brown's character was not, and she was just written kind of as this stereotypical older black woman.
Yeah.
Scary and authoritative.
Yeah.
And you don't fuck with her kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, no, we're good.
Okay, I was going to say another thing with that is that, like all these shows, including the competition that we barely glossed over, and iCarly and even this movie, they would do a thing where, like, they would have in and out love interest for the pro tags, generic ones every other time, like new character every other episode pretty much, and they never would stick around much. So maybe there was weird stuff with any of the female walk-on minor romance love interest characters in those shows if we look back and actually check. But I have very little interest because, like I said, I wasn't really watching those shows at the time, and there's not really any direct, huge deep dive that I've covered I've seen so far, like Quinton's.
I mean, I have to look for Kenan Kel, and if not, I mean, I still have two.
I probably
Nuzlocke videos I've even made, but I am curious because, like, and I also think, like, yes, we know, like, when you think about Drake and Josh, like, Drake was the player, so he's always with a different girl. But, like, well, in Kenan and Kel, like, yes, Kenan was more so interested in girls, and Kel obviously was just
Interested in orange soda.
Yeah, interested in orange soda, and everything. But like the vast majority of that show, like the love interests for Keenan were only really like set up for the main problem of the episode.
Yeah, that's how a lot of these shows were.
Drake, I mean, that was a character defining thing about it. So like, I think back about Keenan and Kel, and I don't think that in the same way, like the female characters were treated the same way, even though both Keenan and Drake had that. Oh, I'm into a girl, and there's something with a plot, whatever. Keenan's character traits were not defined by his interest. He was a normal teenage boy looking for love. Drake was the cool player guy. Obviously, that we know what happened behind the scenes and all that stuff, but like, it's just interesting. I don't know. It's interesting to think about that way things settled, even.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll never revisit it, and it won't be proved wrong, and it'll look terrible in retrospect.
So, I mean, I feel like if we already watch, I definitely feel like you could point out Drake and Josh. Yeah. I feel like with Keenan and Kel, I think there's plausibility, I think there's deniability, and I think too, whether it was the star power behind it, whether it was so early on in the whole saga that it was almost protected and sheltered somewhat because it was whatnot. I feel like. And hopefully I'm right that we can say that set was a very, very different place than what it became.
Yeah. Speaking of what it became, after Victorious from 2010 to 2013, Sam and Cack, which was 2013. Cack. 2013 and 2014.
If I honestly, before that video series, I maybe heard the name. Cannot say that I probably even knew about it.
I knew it existed. Just because, like I said, I was like an internet person at the time. Never, like all the shows in this little arc, never watched a single episode of it.
I
barely knew it existed because in my brain it was a blip because it only was for like 1 year. It was a blip that happened like Victorious and iCarly cross or a new show with both characters, and I was just like, what? And then next thing I blinked and it was already over and canceled, and I was like, whatever. And went on with my life the next year.
I said I
never thinking about it.
I could say I maybe heard about it, but I never watched an episode.
Oh yeah, no, it was like a blip in my brain. Sam and Cat, which I like, even after the Quinton thing, another thing like Goomer, freaking the GOAT, he's the best. But yeah, a complete blip that completely passed by me, never in my radar. And then from 2015
onwards, basically?
No, 2014 actually, just as Sam and Cat ended, 2014 to 2020, Henry Danger, and its many spinoffs.
So yeah, that was something I did not even know about.
That's something like super, super far background. I like maybe when I was like changing channels past Nickelodeon, I would hear the name once or twice. I was more familiar with the Thundermans, which was another superhero show on Nickelodeon at the time, because the main actor Chris Tallman was like a huge podcast person, like a comedian podcaster, and like I was familiar because he was on the Thundermans, but I knew Henry Danger was another superhero show that was running at the same time that neither of them I never watched an episode of, because by that point I'm way too old to be watching that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I can't say I have ever even really heard about Henry Danger until maybe, like, if I heard about it before Quinton's videos, I saw that was on Nickelodeon, and I said, I don't care.
Yeah.
And I mean, that was the extent I knew about it.
Yeah.
So, like, when he pointed out, like, that
it's
Frankie...
the most massive Nickelodeon thing that there's been for, say, like, next to SpongeBob at this point. Like, he's huge.
Right. Which we didn't even touch on SpongeBob, because I was there at the beginning.
Oh, yeah, we both were, way back, like, 97 or whatever the hell that is.
Yeah.
Like, One Piece time. Ironically enough.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. But, like, Henry Danger was massive, which I never watched a single episode of.
Like, when Quinton mentioned it and then showed Frankie Grande, I knew exactly where he was going with it, because I knew who Frankie Grande was from Big Brother.
Okay, yeah.
So, like, he mentioned it, and then he said, oh, this character was on Henry Danger and all these things. And then they mentioned Goomer, and there's the connective tissue, and I was like, huh, interesting. And I was like, I instantly knew where things were going on it. Which is, I mean, that is his own weird kooky, crazy thing.
I mean, Henry Danger is, and also it ties into the show I mentioned, Thundermans, and the other show, which started in 2015 to 2019, Game Shakers, which is the show.
I never even heard about that.
Me neither. But yeah, Kel Mitchell is one of the main actors on that, playing the character from Sam and Cat with a new name, which he said he thinks is the same character.
That's right. He was. It was it like the Kanye?
He's like Kanye spoof parody, but he's like the father of one of the main characters in Game Shakers.
And we're saying Kanye so that way he doesn't auto search into the other name he uses. So you'll never know we even mentioned his name.
But like,
because I don't want that gay fish to talk to us. That gay fish is not welcome here.
Easy sucks. He's a psycho and a weirdo and a creep.
And a Nazi.
Yeah, and a Nazi. I'm very curious.
How are there black Nazis in 2025?
Because he's just a fucking contrarian psycho. But
I mean, there's contrarian, and then there's
mental illness.
Full Nazi.
There's contrarian, and then there's mental illness.
Ooh, let's not get into that conversation.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just gonna sip my iced tea, which is actually alcohol here.
Well, Pokemon time.
No, that was just my text phone for my work phone.
Gotcha.
But yeah. Oh no, let's see. My phone is telling me that
you've been podcasting too long.
Oh, it's telling me about one of my apps. Cool.
Coolsies. Game Shakers and Henry Danger, both 2015 to 2008, and then but also just this year, 2004, like last year.
Last year, 2004?
Yeah, last year, 2004. 2024. The Henry Danger movie came out, and it had Frankie Grande being Frankini again. So it's still, but of course, after Henry Danger, which ended in 2020, not regarding the movie that just came out, there was the iCarly sequel series.
I heard about it.
2001. It went for 3 seasons.
2001?
It just ended. 2001. Time is weird. I'm saying too many dates, and I've never seen this many days in a row in fucking decades, I feel like.
We really are aging ourselves.
We're very, very elderly.
It's also weird to think we're talking about like the 2020s.
Because it's a huge scale. Like I said, we just missed the 15-year anniversary of Victorious. And watching that show, did it feel like it was 15 years ago?
It didn't.
It didn't, because we're old. We're old men, Ed. We're getting there.
I just see a gray in your beard there.
I have tons of gray hair in my goddamn beard. I have tons of grays. But yeah, we're incredibly old. But no, the iCarly sequel series, which Jeanette McCurdy did not come back for. But I would say, and then of course that just ended. I think like last year or so after 3 seasons.
The sequel got 3 seasons.
3 seasons, yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, it was a long time running. And then, of course, that leads us to the next and currentest part of the Nickelodeon Sitcom Universe, Hollywood Arts. Coming soon.
Wait, what?
Oh, you didn't hear?
Isn't that the school that the Victoria
Yeah, that is the school that Victoria takes place in, Ed.
Wait, what?
You didn't hear? It was announced maybe a month or so ago.
I'm assuming it... See that's
well. If you're not familiar, let me just tell you.
I'm assuming that there's no bread involved, right?
Bread?
I'm trying to.
No.
They're cut ties.
That production studio was supposed to. They were supposed to have cut ties back in what was it? Sam and Cat, 2013, 2014. Was when he was not allowed to be on set any longer, and he had to record everything from a booth. But he still would just violate that whenever he felt like. I'm sure. He was still around for Game Shakers and Henry Danger. I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure because I don't remember seeing his name on any of the stuff in those 2 shows, but I think he is still technically.
I mean, if they did, they probably didn't do what they did in the end of this, where they plastered over the 2 stars.
I don't know if he still has like giant name credits over the iCarly sequel series because I also didn't watch that, but I'm pretty sure he may be still credited somewhere. But Hollywood Arts is going to be a new series about Trina, Tori's sister, becoming a teacher at Hollywood Arts with a new generation of kids. It's beginning production this year. And as we saw in this movie, how Trina treats kids, that's going to be a very hilarious setup.
So I remember, watching this episode, because this is my only exposure to Victorious.
Yeah.
This episode, besides Quinton Reviews. So I recall her being described as always treated as like the butt of the joke and the worst thing ever. And
not talented, annoying, rude. You're supposed to hate her because she's,
right. And
her.
And also too, like I remember like his sympathy for her showing through. So when I watched this episode and I saw her
see through that gaze, yeah.
I saw her, and I was like, obviously there was bad choices, but I didn't like it. I did not like it.
Didn't like her?
There were so many things about it I just felt uncomfortable with.
I think that half as a bit probably that Quentin's like real sympathy for Trina because she seems like a really pretty asshole-ish person for the most
she
part.
does, but at the same point, it's like you can see like the world is just kind of pooping on her, and it's kind of like it's someone who wants to be. I mean, if you think about it too, you have to think about the situation. She's not surrounded by a bunch of people who are untalented or anything. No. It's like she's surrounded and in this like school of like exceptional people, and she's like having to deal with the being the lesser and trying to pull herself up. So it's like, yeah, she's making bad decisions, but she's also surrounded by people who are given, like, they walk in the door as the millionth guests and win a lifetime supply of whatever, and she walks through the door, and then she's the 1,000,001st, and she gets, like, to use a popular trope from this network, she's slimed. It's like the person after this person wins $1 million, and the person right after them gets slimed for everyone's enjoyment. Ha ha ha.
Yeah, honestly, the way I look at it was that it's completely understandable because she's just taking Psychowitz's role, which I think is appropriate because Psychowitz is also like a failed former actor. And like her being that character, that guy, that Psycho, I think fits properly.
Okay, yes, because that character,
Psychowitz is the best.
Quentin did not do a good job in preparing me for that.
I 100% was ready. I was like, oh god, this guy's a fucking weird Psycho, and it's hilarious.
I knew basic.
Every line is weird.
Everything he did. Oh boy,
we get the actual his bit. It'll be great. But yeah, Hollywood Arts is the newest project. Just announced, I think maybe like 1 or 2 months ago. And ironically, as we keep mentioning nonstop, Quentin 100% predicted this a year or so ago, or more than a year, probably like when he did the first Victorious video. He was like, yeah, when they do some inevitable, lazy, Victorious reboot in the future, I mean, I'm sure what it'll be like when one of the characters comes back as a teacher for the next generation, and we'd all hate when that happened. And they literally said that like 2 or 3 years ago when he first did the Victorious thing.
Maybe it's just the 40 hours. I've only watched it the once. But I don't remember him saying.
Oh no, yeah, it was like a one-off tiny bit in like the first or second Victorious video, and then like he just recently put a short out of like him cutting that, like editing out that little like that short, and then been like like a big scream over the like picture of like Donald Monet returns on Hollywood Arts TV show as the teacher, and it's just like I can't believe you predicted it 100%.
He really did.
Yeah, but like I'm hey, if the production company is limited in what they're doing or their presence.
I mean,
sure, maybe why not?
There's a low bar.
And if they, honestly, I don't know if the Henry Danger movie probably didn't emphasize Frankie Grande's relation to the cat character who should exist in that universe. If they in any way establish the insane universe of Henry Danger or Game Shakers as canon to Victorious in Hollywood Arts, it's like, yeah, of course, over in Pleasant View, the superheroes are flying around fighting supervillains. I would think it would be incredibly hilarious.
I would. Listen,
that would be the show worth it, I think.
I definitely think so, yeah. Are we about ready to get to this movie
that
here?
That is it. Well, no, not really, because...
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Hey, man, we just talked about how we love to do the little side stuff.
I mean, yes, but we got to get to this eventually.
Of course, now, if you wanted to get into the actual, like, quiet on set allegations and stuff, you do want to get specifics. We don't need to, but we can still now get into the actual actors of the show. Miranda Cosgrove and Jeanette McCurdy.
They both.
I mean, we can talk about the extensive, incredible book that Jeanette McCurdy made.
Throw this out here. If anyone somehow is listening has not watched the Quiet on Set documentary, and I know there's people who say things were talked about over and dramatized and didn't go. And there are flaws with it that they didn't go into, understandably, potentially. But we're going to talk about stuff. So if you have not watched that, definitely watch that, and also probably read Jeanette McCurdy's book, because I know we're going to be talking about stuff with that.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of history, firsthand experience. So we are just talking about what we have intaken, and we are just regurgitating.
Yeah.
So get the actual account straight up before I'm just going to throw that out here before we go into it.
Of course, I was going to say I have not seen Quiet on Set, but I did read her book.
I have not read her book. Leanne has, but I did watch Quiet on Set.
Okay. But I was saying, these are... Yeah,
my wife has done both.
Leanne's the best. She should be hosting this podcast.
She's the best, but I wouldn't say that she should host. But she is the best.
Ed doesn't want to lose his role as the host.
I love you.
But beyond that stuff that we're going to get into with that part, I would say that the Miranda Cosgrove stuff, which I don't think we never really went into in either of those situations.
I didn't truly know what was going on with her besides the music career.
She was. If you read Jeanette McCurdy's book, Miranda Cosgrove comes an absolutely glowingly wonderful person. She literally saved her from the horrors that Jeanette McCurdy's mother put her through. She was a really good friend because her parents were both like atheist professors or something like that. Like they're both like very well educated people who were not particularly religious, but her mom, as opposed to her mother, who was not saying anything bad about religious people, but like her mother, who Jeanette McCurdy's mother, who was abusive in that situation like that. But like she was her parents let her have a cell phone. They let her have, access the internet. They let her do whatever she wanted, and she was a much more like liberated person than Jeanette McCurdy was at the time. But of course, like every child actor, she had a harrowing existence as well because she had a number of stalkers because of iCarly, including an incident where she was doing like a college tours. And like she went to just hang out with some girls at like their apartment to study or whatever because she was always homeschooled or schooled on set during filming.
Because the thing about it too is like not only was she Megan in Drake and Josh, but then she was also in School of Rock.
Yeah, School of Rock blew up from that, and then iCarly of course made her even more famous with Psycho.
It's funny to say that because I know she had a music career, and also I remember reading from School of Rock that Miranda Cosgrove had to pretend to not be able to sing because her character in that couldn't sing.
Yeah, exactly.
I think Summer was her character's name, and I know in 2025 Jack Black's popularity has fallen some and everything, but I think that part of that is the industry that he is in. Yeah. And I think some of it is playing the game. And I think some of it might just be, but like overall, I remember from what I've gathered, Jack Black is the kind of person who I think is similar to, and you probably remember his name, the actor who plays Spencer and Crazy Steve.
Jerry Trainer.
Jerry Trainer. Jerry Trainer. Like Jerry Trainer was another one I remember hearing about being like the kind of person who would stand up for them. And my belief is that even if maybe Jack Black to modern day has gone a little corporate, for the most part he is the kind of person who would stand up for the actors. So I do want to believe that he is the person who stood up. So hopefully that I say that all in the hope that School of Rock was a better set than a lot of, I'm sure, films have been.
That was a Nickelodeon production, I believe, too.
School of Rock?
I feel like it was.
It might have been. It might have been Viacom, so it might have been a parent company, but I don't think it was Nickelodeon proper. As you talk, I'm going to look that up.
Well, yeah. Well, anyway, regardless of that, as much as that, I know that movie was huge when we were growing up. But yeah, Miranda Cosgrove had a number of stalkers. Like she said, she was hanging out with these college people during a tour, and there was like a crazy person in the like backyard of their house with a knife and like waiting for her to come outside. There was also an incident with a stalker with a gun who like shot a woman on her block before getting arrested. Another stalker, maybe the same guy, maybe a different person, like set themselves on fire in front of her house. Like she had a number of crazy stalkers, and she like recounts these stories of all this stuff happening when she was like a teenager growing up. And she's like completely like whatever blasé about it. And then like, she's going through all that insanity. And then on the other side, Jeanette McCurdy is having an absolutely harrowing life that I cannot even begin to summarize. Yeah. The situation she was living through her entire life, which was an absolute nightmare. She was going through that. But the amount of like, I know the running bit that Quinton goes over, like, that is known with the same characters, that her mom is like absentee and or a drug addict and or very mentally unstable. And like the constant jokes, the amount of jokes in this one episode or this, movie length 4-episode thing is like really upsetting, knowing what Jeanette's actually still going through at this point. And then you find out that the actors on like one of the things where like the producer was one of the worst incidents when he was like being really creepy and terrible to her, trying to get her to drink when like talking about giving her own show. He mentions that the Victoria's kids drink all the time, and if you look up Beck's actor talking about how, yes, he was hungover or drunk on set for Victorious the entirety of the series. A number of the other actors were also, doing drugs or, being drunk throughout the entire production as well. Which is also evident if you watch the slap.com, the online content with like, you can tell like Ariana and or Victoria Justice are both like definitely on something while recording a lot of those bits. And it's actually like, it's really rough. Like, it's like, child acting is very, very serious and very, very dramatic. Not even to mention all the crazy cried on set stuff.
Yeah.
So if going into any of these shows with all that kind of context or all that kind of history, it's really, can be very changing the tone of what you're watching and like how you feel about what you're watching. Because like I said,
this episode we watched of this movie, like, and my ranking is reflected and not so much on that because it's hard. Because I mean, in theory, if you took all the hard context of it, like completely into it, I mean, this would be below Monster Hunter. Like, let's be honest. So it's a little hard to rank it without taking some of that away. But there are moments that, I mean, I make a little bit of a joke in my notebooks, but there were definitely things and moments that, because we're older and because things have come out, they hit different.
Oh yeah. But nice timing.
Boy, but yeah, all these things, it's completely terrible to think because like these. It's so, and it's sometimes I say, we were talking earlier about Keenan and Kel, like, well, yes, I want to go back and I would love to see a hard dissection of them and look back at them and break down and all that. I think what helped was this, like I said, iCarly, I vaguely remember watching some of, never watched Victorious, barely had even heard of Sam and Cat. So like those are the three of the kind of the big ones in this chunk here.
Yeah.
So like I was not deep and connected, attached to it. So it's easier to disassociate and even watch this knowing that because you don't feel just genuinely sick. Mm-hmm. But if I were to try to watch Drake and Josh, it genuinely would be difficult knowing what we know. Because, I mean, for those who have not watched, I guess a quick spoiler alert if you somehow don't know. But the quickest basic thing was Drake Bell was being taken advantage of by someone who had a say and a voice a lot.
Yep.
And to the point where, like, when at the trial, multiple people wrote recommendations for his abuser, and there's the abuser's side of the courtroom was
a number
filled
of well-known
with,
actors,
right? Yeah. And Drake Bell had very few people, which it was pointed out, and I will also point out, in fairness, that this person, of course, that we know is hard connected to all of these things, did take Drake's side. So I say that only because for all that evil, there is a slight of good, and I think that it's important to point out that the worst people do have a slight good side to them, just as the best people have a dark side to them. But all that said, but yeah, I bet you if I watch Drake and Josh, knowing what I know now, it would be much harder at times to stomach some of these things because you would watch knowing that, and there are definitely probably moments. I'll bet you if you were to look up the time frame and you knew what episodes were shot, I would bet you and wager that you could look and you could see a pain in Drake Bell that may not have been caught without knowing the context behind it. Oh, yeah. So, like, it's, and I say that I've lost my train of thought in all honesty, because I mean this is all some serious stuff.
We are at 2 hours now, and we have not we've not talked at all about the fucking movie.
I mean, what is there to talk about the movie? It is a TV episode.
It's literally an episode's worth of content.
I feel like the episode is, I mean, literally it's 70 minutes, and I mean most of my notes are jokes.
I reference a scene that's happening that I'm watching, and then hey, finally a joke that made me laugh, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
But yeah, of course Nickelodeon. We just nostalgia gushed for almost 2 hour and a half, to now be and of course production's very bad. Childhood acting is very bad.
And it's hard. It's hard, and it's also too and I say this as someone who maybe I need this to hear myself say it, but your nostalgia for something, and well, yes, you have to acknowledge the pain that it was built on. Your nostalgia for something and your memories of something being good before that time that you knew it is valid, because there is, I think, joy to be had. Obviously, yes, there's some massive pains and terrible things, and acknowledging that is important. but at the same time, your feelings of how you felt watching it and your enjoyment of some of these things are fun. Like, my favorite joke from this episode, I'm just going to throw up spoilers. So Kenan Thompson shows up, and they ask him for a favor, and he's like, "Oh, he's going to ask for money? I got half the cast of all that asking me for it."
Oh, yeah.
In context, if you truly think about it, I'm sure that there's darkness in that, behind it.
Of course, yeah.
But that is, even knowing the dark things that did happen on, and they grew on set.
Yeah.
That's a funny joke.
It's a good joke.
And I'm saying that having never heard of it until 2025.
Yeah.
And this aired season 3. The show aired in 2015?
This movie was like 2009, I believe, or something.
2009?
Like that, I believe.
2009, 2010, maybe.
Yeah, maybe 2010, I think.
Even if you, when did the show end? 2014?
This show, iCarly or
Victorious?
Victorious ended in 13.
In 2013. So even if you put this at the latest, 12 years later, with 12 years of context, that's a funny ass joke.
Oh, yeah.
So you are not a bad person for enjoying things.
Technically, if you want to feel real old, that's almost 20 years after all that. It's 19 years after all that started.
How?
I know.
How?
Time sucks, dude. We're old as shit.
Also, that's weird.
All that started in 94. Victorious ended in 2013. That's 19 years.
Which is honestly kind of weird.
Time marches on, Ed. We're elderly men.
Sure fucking are.
I'm a grand uncle.
I'm just a dad.
Yeah, sir.
I mean, if I was a grandparent, then there's also I also would have committed a murder. But let's get off of that now.
But no, like, yeah, it's a funny bit because Keenan's a great actor.
Yeah.
What the hell? You want to start the movie, or we want to?
I mean, unless you got something else to have us nostalgia talk about.
No, I mean, we're pretty much. I think 2 hours is good enough.
And this is, thinking about our last episode compared to this, it's definitely weird and crazy because, I mean, the last one we were on point, and yeah, we jumped, but we were jumping on hard topic of Monster Hunter. So
Nickelodeon's a pretty hard topic, I think, specifically.
But I mean, Nickelodeon is more than just, because you have the live action stuff, but as I kept pulling us into the animated things,
stuff, yeah.
Because that's his own. I mean, that could be his own massive thing.
I could talk about Pelswick and just the weird shit that no one remembers for hours.
I think that the game shows that they had around that time, Guts, Figure. I mean, just those the three I know the most.
I'm trying. Is Brain Squeezers the show that was the spoof on Victorious where they all got beaten up and abused, or was that the actual? Because there's an actual show called like Brain Surge or something like that. That I feel like it was.
That was like Quinton mentioned that. I think it was like a British thing, which apparently you think of hearing that and there's like Brain does this thing. There's a lot of shows I think that are Americanized from like non-America.
Oh yeah, we talk about Angela Anaconda was Canadian.
Big Brother itself started outside of America. Mm-hmm. The very first season, my wife and I watched season 1. It is a vastly different show. Also, ironically, the winner of season 1, spoiler alert for Big Brother season 1, which by the way is basically non-canonized by Big Brother itself, was a one-legged man by the name of Eddie.
No.
Which is also ironic because anyone with the name Eddie in movies dies. And I'm not kidding. If you look up any character named Eddie in any movie, they very much likely die. Wow. And I can give you 3 straight examples. One of them is technically tangential. The Phantom of the Paradise, the opening song is about a character named Eddie who kills himself to make his last song big enough money to save his sister, which is his own that's its own weird satire meta thing from the 80s. But then you go to Rocky Horror Picture Show, character named Eddie, dead. Spoilers. Also, in Jurassic Park 2, The Lost World, guess who gets ripped in half by 2 T-Rexes?
That's a pretty
Spoiler alert, Eddie.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool scene, though.
If Eddie... Oh, and hey, I guess, spoiler alert for Stranger Things Season 4, that really cool character that everyone loved, who's a big nerd and everything, his name, who died, Eddie. Eddie dies in media.
Oh, yeah.
So I guess I'm glad that I've not become a movie star because I would be dead because Eddie's died. But Big Brother Season 1 winner's name was Eddie. And I'm not kidding when the only connection that season has to any other season of Big Brother is Chicken George, the 55-year-old man who took care of the chickens and got known as Chicken George and came back in All Stars. But like that was based on the OG Big Brother, which is still airing outside of America and is very much and I've never seen it, so I can't say 100%, but like real world, where like basically like people live in the same house and just get along and eventually get voted out.
Yeah, nothing weird or
I mean, Big Brother,
silly as they get.
Right, but Big Brother nowadays is very much like Survivor, where there's social games and metas and competitions and twists and things. Like, basically all that point is to say that all of these American shows that we love have basically started from non-American roots. Just think about that next time we talk about buying American. Anyway, take it over, Matt.
Jesus Christ, Ed. What that has to do with the movie?
Good question. I don't fucking know, but it's also, it's just on
hey man,
brand.
We're 2 hours and 10 minutes. The beers are hitting us. A bunch of crazy shots about the actual fucking movie iParty with Victoria is finally at this point we're starting to talk about this silly ass movie.
So this is where we're gonna cut for the
now the next podcast is starting now.
Right, so you do your plugs and then I do my plugs and then I'll tell you the next movie.
Of course.
So
all right, Action Toon Bros. We mentioned a couple times. Listen to my equally long podcast series about different episodes of TV shows, animated ones that have action, obviously. Listen to old episodes of Movie Garbage on this. Our Monster Hunter 3-parter. By the time we're recording this, I'm probably going to post it sometime around the week we record this, so soon. And then, of course, Forgotten Minotaur King. Go buy my book. Listen to the podcast. Follow us over on everything at Metulus Podcasts on Blue Sky, on Patreon, on YouTube, on Twitch. Metulus Podcasts, follow all those. Still other projects in the works, but I'm also very lazy. Who knows? Maybe someday a One Piece podcast. Maybe someday that gaming podcast with Chris,
friend of the podcast,
Bo.
I mean, it will be introduced as friend of podcast Chris Bo, right?
Yeah, that's what the podcast is gonna be called.
I mean, if he
with
doesn't,
Matthew and friend of the podcast Chris Bo,
which I feel like even if he doesn't say it, you just have to go in and edit one of you, like
I said, people don't know. I whenever someone says offhandedly, "Hey, why don't you do this dumb edit bit?" I will do that bit, and I will. And people, if you listen, you'll see.
Yeah, we definitely that has to be edited in. Every time he says his name is friend of the podcast Chris Bo.
Yeah,
every time, and it's not always him saying it.
That is all me for now.
So, I'm mostly really found, because I haven't set Blue Sky up, on Twitch at Father_Bohawk. You do have YouTube as well under that name, which hasn't posted anything in a while, and I have 2 runs. I still have my Bug Diamond Locked and my Black Fire Lock that I'll eventually get up, but I'm still streaming my White 2 Kaizo. I'm at run 81 at the moment, getting ready for Berg. And by the time I listen to this and it's out, I'll probably be on several runs later. Or I'll beaten it, maybe. But yeah, I'll probably be on run like 100 at that point. So, but yeah, I stream there, not really great. You can hear the children in the background. They make scheduling things harder. And everything. And honestly, we've been recording for almost 4 hours, but we've been trying to do this for like 5 or 6.
Yeah.
We started around like 4 o'clock.
I got here at like 1:30.
And
now it's 9:30.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you take 70 minutes out to watch the movie.
Yeah, 70 minutes for the movie, about like 2 or 3 hours for the Magic the Gathering game, and then recording this now in 4 hours almost.
It's been a lot. No, we did, the game maybe lasted an hour and a half.
Yeah.
We just had that many cuts in this because I love my children. They don't understand the sanctity of podcast recording yet.
Hey man, let them do what they're doing. This podcasting is my stimming.
There we go.
Chatting with my friends for 4 hours about shows from 20 years ago.
I mean, we sure did that, didn't we not? Yeah. So, but yeah, follow me on Twitch. Watch me on Twitch. I have lots of fun, and I like conversations when I'm not just talking into a blank void about math. Pokemon math. So,